Hey guys, how's it going out there? Welcome to the show. Got a great one lined up for you today. If you'd like to support this channel, there are PayPal and Patreon links in the info box below. We got two resident Ballbusters on the panel. Mr. Nathan Oakley, sir, and Arwen. How's it going, gentlemen?
Very well, very well.
Arwen? Alrighty then.
Oh, sorry. I'm
Okay.
here.
You're here. All right. Outstanding. Yep. To speak about admin, because I know Nathan loves it so much, it looks like the studio had crapped the bed again, so it's not giving me any information. So I hope everything's going out live. Everything's going good. Let me check it one more time. Yeah, it's looking good, but no chat. So it seems like a crapshoot with this. I don't know what's up, but we can move on. It looks like everything's going golden.
I can keep track of the chat if you like. So you could focus
Appreciate
on the
it.
show.
Yep, appreciate that.
All right.
So what's going on? We got the top 50, right? The Globe Tard Goobers' greatest gaffes. Looking forward to it.
Gotta be a hard pick, with the preponderance of it all.
I'm not going to have anyone picked. I mean, it's just going to be their own personal favorites and stuff, but there's not going to be any top winner. I don't think I could pick one. I mean, I have one or two that stand out, but I don't know. It's up to the individual. These are mind-numbing. But we got 50. Go ahead.
Are these the top 50?
Yes.
Okay. Been looking forward to this show.
It is a good one to sit back and just enjoy. Get some popcorn, perhaps.
I remember you talking about it. You said, hey, you should run a show on that. And that was a few weeks ago. And I said, yeah, I'm going to do it. I'll do it coming up here. But you didn't know what today's show was, did you?
I did. I just didn't put two and two together.
Oh.
So, I don't know. It's one of those where I think of gaffes as just being silly things that people say. But as I consider the list that you've put together, it's always on topic. You just put a comma wrong in terms of the discussion. Your opponent on the Globe side will highlight it. You're an idiot for it and play it at nausea. But, a misspeak versus a gaffe is distinguishable mainly by its being on topic or not. And a lot of the stuff that we get criticised for often isn't on topic.
Adam, sir.
I'm often off topic. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, sir. How are you? You ready?
Yeah, not bad. Usual excuse. Finishing my tea.
Yeah, I get
Steak with chimichurri sauce tonight, John.
So go ahead. I didn't hear you.
Steak in chimichurri sauce.
Chimichurri sauce?
Like chopped parsley, shallots, chili, vinegar, salt, pepper. Very nice. And then
I need to get a translator. I'm having more and more difficulty understanding what you're saying.
Adam's into some cuisine.
See, with
I'm blessed that my wife cooks like that. If I was having it, it'd be Domino's.
Where is Nottingham? Hold on a second. Where is Nottingham in relation to Birmingham? Because I can understand Nathan pretty easily, but you? I mean, it takes energy, purposeful energy to focus on those words. So what's up with that?
Because he doesn't talk proper like where I do, you see.
Yeah, I was going to say, I haven't got a particularly strong Birmingham accent, although occasionally I have it. Occasionally the twang will come through, but no, I don't really have a very strong accent. And if I had a Birmingham accent, you'd know about it.
I need to take a listen to a actual Birmingham accent then.
Okay.
Oh, it's horrible.
YouTuber, take no notice. And listen to take no notice.
Take
and
no
you'll hear what a Birmingham
notice.
accent
Is that
is like?
GNOSIS?
Correct.
Okay.
That's what a Birmingham accent actually sounds like.
Okay. Why don't you were you born in Birmingham?
No, I had voice and speech lessons at a performing arts school.
Okay. So that like
Whereas I went to a comprehensive.
so does that render the Birmingham accent null and void?
Yeah, well, as an actor, you were expected to be able to reproduce a given accent based on the character.
Okay.
Your overall accent should be neutral, right?
Yes.
For example, if you take the guy who played House, what's his name? Hugh Laurie.
Yes.
A lot of the actors didn't realise till they concluded the filming that he was British. Just assumed he was an American. And then at the after show party, he's talking in his normal voice. And they're like, what the hell are you doing? Why are you putting on that funny British accent? It's like, no, this is how I talk. I'm an actor. So they didn't know that House wasn't American. The actors themselves, that is. His co-stars. Anyway.
It's a pretty good American accent then that he could fool real Americans.
Indeed. Adam, on the other hand, is just a commoner.
Yep.
Common.
Happy with that. Proud of it. Common as muck, as they say over here, John. So, yeah, no problem with that, mate.
I love the accent, man. I really do. It's just, like I said, it's just sometimes it's difficult for me to understand fully what you're saying, but that's okay.
This would have been how Robin Hood would have talked. Would have talked like Nathan.
Don't be deceived by accent, though. It's meaningless because in reality, I scrape a living on YouTube and live in pretty much squalor and poverty and on close to the breadline most of the time. Adam's reasonably affluent and is well educated and has put that education into a career that gives him a reasonable living. So in reality, we're at other ends of the scale. So our accent is neither here nor there, really.
Hey, and Adam just said, right, he talking about Robin Hood, right? That's what I said to my wife. I said, yeah, I got a buddy, he's from Nottingham. And I said, you remember where that's at, right? That's where Robin Hood comes from. And she says, oh, yeah, I got it. Yeah, so that's the one I used.
Northern, like Anthony.
So is Nottingham, you're saying northern? Is it north?
Yeah.
But it's in the middle, properly.
So it's
if you took the UK as a whole, Scotland and England, right? Or Ireland. Not that that's anything to do with any troubles that I want to cause here. But if you just take that landmass, Nottingham would be slap bang in the middle. England, Birmingham, slap bang in the middle. Does that make sense?
Yes. Good. Now that we got that cleared up, I brought up a topic before we started. It was a couple minutes because I was late. But I brought up a topic that I didn't catch on to. I think I wasn't catching on to it because I mostly don't listen to numpties talk about the horizons anymore. I'm just tired of hearing it, right? But I've been listening over the past week, 10 days or so, and this morning. I was listening to a video this morning, and I finally got where they're going. And this is what they said. Now, this was a pretty big hangout. I'm not trying to attach it to every single baltard, but there was about 60 people in the hangout. The gentleman said it. I don't even know who it was, but no one objected. So if you don't object, you are a signator. Just so you know. Okay, so this is what he said, or more or less, I'll paraphrase. There are two horizons. Number one, the invisible geometric horizon, which projects the apparent horizon to arbitrary locations, right? And then he framed it at the end and he said this. The necessary antecedent for an apparent horizon is a geometric horizon. So that just solidified in my head that they think that this geometric horizon, I don't know, what does it have, a projector or something? It exists, but it's invisible. Of course, no horizons are invisible because horizon by definition is visible, but I digress. This special one, geometric horizon, it projects another horizon somewhere else. I mean, this is batshit insane,
on
man.
the head.
I want to get really, really nitpicky, if I may.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Technically, a flat Earth also has a geometric horizon. It's just way, way, way out of sight. It's impossible to ever see it because it's beyond where things start to inevitably blur up.
Does it?
And that always happens. So
Does it?
it's out there, but you never get to see it. You just get to see the apparent horizon.
Nah, not having that all win.
Let's just one crazy issue at a time. So with their claim, right, they're saying it's an invisible horizon.
Yeah, Arwen,
Let's
stop
start with the
rumpusing them.
Hold on. There's two horizons, according to them. Right, so that's the first problem. We only have the horizon, and the horizon in their model is geometric. They say it's being projected to an arbitrary position, and it's not blocking boats and buildings at a feet and inches value now, is it? The whole point of your claim is that you've got a physical horizon that's capable of blocking stuff based on the maths that you give us. You know, we spend a prolonged period of time debating about how many feet and inches we're missing based on the physicality blocking it. If it's arbitrarily moved to a different position, it's no longer a physical geometric sphere edge, formerly known as Earth curvature, you complete numpties. Projected to a different position, it can't block stuff anymore. Completely relinquished your claim proof of a physical sphere edge and the geometry that goes with it, and you relinquish it. Second problem is they're saying they project it. Well, they project things with an R value that's derived from the physical geometry of a sphere edge horizon that is physical. That leaves them in Arwinian paradox, which is to say you can't move the physical geometric sphere edge to a non-physical position, because then you can't measure it to get it, to move it with the R value you're getting from the measurement. Completely paradoxical. So two horizons, no, we've only got one. It used to be geometric and block stuff. Number two, you've got a paradox. If you're going to project it to a different position that's non-physical, A, it's non-physical. You're trying to prove we've got physical Earth curve. But it's yet another thing that isn't really in existence. Yeah, well, we know that already. We were told by the rumpus, and we knew instinctively before he even said it. Geometric horizon, it's not an invisible horizon. It only exists in your maths. And in your maths, it's claimed to be physically blocking stuff. Now, if it's non-physical and projected with an R value paradoxically, then it's not blocking stuff. It's not Earth curve. We don't have a geometric horizon. Thank you.
Well said. That covered it completely. Except the invisible horizon part. Invisible horizons do not exist, people. To be a horizon, it has to be visible. Okay? Adam, do you want to add something to that?
Well, I'll disagree with that point, because if you allow the presupposition that a horizon can carry a projector, then there's nothing wrong with an invisibility cloak either, is there?
Touche. Fair enough.
No, the only point I was with Owens on a flat Earth, there's a geometric edge. That would seem presumptive.
Oh, an edge, like a corner, or
Right.
if it were indeed looping, then there would be no edge.
I was going to ask about on your looping model, there definitely wouldn't be, would there? Now,
I made some comments in the chat, in the
what
YouTube
did it
chat.
say?
But it's just technical because we can't see that far, never. Like the atmosphere just doesn't allow that under any condition, no matter how clear, to see far enough to get a glimpse of the geometric horizon. It's just blurred out.
We just stick to one set of nonsense, the prevailing nonsense rather than the Arwinian nonsense. No offense. It's a big enough headache to have to deal with the Western world's overriding view that they're on a sphere. Now, the maths they're claiming for this sphere, we've said it many times already, is geometric. That means by necessity, it requires a tangent point. Now, the tangent point in that geometry is claimed to be Earth curve. And the moment they move that, when they move that physical tangent point, that's their geometric sphere edge horizon, formerly known as Earth curve, and they can't draw a straight line to it, and it isn't a tangent point, and they can't do geometry. This is complete nonsense, right? Let's just face it. Fundies, just listen up, right? Your sphere model's dead. There's no salvaging it, right? The moment you attempt to salvage it, you break it even further. And in this instance, projecting your horizon when the horizon is your tangent point in geometry means what you haven't got that tangent point anymore. Well, what does that mean? Well, it means you haven't got geometry to assert Earth's sphere. I mean, is it really this difficult to understand, Globe Believers?
Yes.
Model's dead. Black Swan killed it. Just have to deal with it now. Acceptance is just few comprehensions away.
Back to Arwen's point. I'll get back to you, Adam, in a second. Back to Arwen's point. You said to see far enough, the Atmo is the problem. That's not the biggest problem. The biggest problem. Let me stay. I'm going to start saying this a lot because I hear a lot of arguments in this general genre, and they don't talk about the elephant in the room. The elephant in the room is the acuteness of angle. That is the elephant. Well, thank you for that echo. Mute.
Well,
Nathan.
that and the stuff that, as it goes away, as you say, it gets the angle diminishes on any surface when you're observing, curved or flat. There's also that tricky thing that they keep forgetting about these ballers, that things actually get smaller as well, further away from you. Relatively, they don't stay the same size in your vision as they go further away.
Precisely.
Indeed. The further you wish to see away, if air conditions allow it, the higher the resolution has to be of your observing medium.
What I'm meaning now, the air conditions is something that is, to me, like your fine tuning button. Yeah, but it's not your big main tuning in buttons. Yeah, your big ones are like we stated, that those weather conditions allow variance in there. Variance that demonstrates that there's no visible geometric edge. But that's what the conditions do to me, and they're the pictures they pull, aren't they? That match on the days that it matches a geometric edge. They're the ones a baller would use. But simple fact that there is that variance, and the variance generally comes from those Atmo conditions.
Yes, and that's the glorious thing about the flat geometry, is that it's purely dependent on weather conditions how far you will be able to see. On
I just said that's not the elephant in the room.
Okay.
It's not. It's a player, but it's not. The elephant is the acuteness of angle between you and where the horizon should be. Because it raises up to you. I'm not going to say it raises up to eye height. It gets close. I don't even understand how it could do that. If every point along a tangent from your feet is supposed to vertically drop away from you at 8 inches per mile squared, how the heck is it even ramping up at any point? Right? However.
Well, John, on that, when we're talking about varying conditions on varying days, and if you was to allow on one day certain variances, it's the simple fact that what you're trying to allude to is a matching of the rate of curvature. Now, that rate of curvature it's not right, but exponential in a way. So if you think about, as you are able to see further, the rate of conditional change of the atmosphere that they're presenting has to have that same exponential function, which it doesn't. It's not there to have. The two sets of parameters that you're trying to correlate to, can't match up. Do you know what I mean? If you're trying to make atmospheric conditions equate to being able to see 5 miles one day looking straight and 10 miles another day looking straight, it looks. Do you get me? The two sets don't match up. They're not comparable cause and effects.
Yep. Yep. I'm not, hey, Arwen, I'm not dogging you out. I'm not saying that what you said aren't players. There are many factors at play here. Right?
Well, I was kind of halfway the statement because the other half was that unique to flat geometry, you can potentially see incredibly far.
Sure.
While on a spherical geometry, the spherical geometry is always a limiter. There's just certain points where no matter what kind of condition is out there on the supposed ball Earth, you could never see that far.
Yes, the geometry is the greatest limiter. Yes.
Exactly. So that was my point.
Yep. Cool. Nathan, any final thoughts on this one?
Well, their thoughts in terms of get out of jail is to say that where there is, in this instance, what you describe as the geometric limitation, and that would be what we're calling the tangent point, or what I've called the tangent point now, is the hill that would get in the way between you and what you're observing if you're on a sphere. So even if you're depicting it in their model, this description to make sense, you'd be tipping back on your ankles or looking down, or there to be a rising up section if your ground beneath your feet is falling away from you at 8 inches per mile squared. So it's not exponential, it's a squared function. That squared function has their description or their mathematics, this sphere edge that rises up between you and the thing that you're observing beyond it and cutting off the bottom of it. Well, that is geometry. That is a tangent point. That is a physical horizon. And that's what they're asserting. We've got physical geometry. Here's the sphere edge, and here's amateur block stuff by with its tangent point physicality. But to get around the fact that we're breaking it by saying here's where your tangent point lies in your maths, and that's where you'd have your limitation of view, and it's beyond that, therefore it's not geometric anymore. They say, well, it's moved. Well, moving it makes it non-geometric then. You can't assert sphere edge geometry if you're saying the sphere edge tangent point that's required in the mathematics is moved to a different location. And in the example you gave at the beginning of the show, you're saying there's two horizons, or they say, the globe believers say, there's two horizons. One is invisible geometric, and that projects its position into a non-geometric position. Well, if that is the case, then you don't have a geometric position anymore. The very thing you're fighting for a geometric tangent point horizon, physical, and named Earth curve. That's what Earth curve is. Moving it to an arbitrary position means, what, the horizon's arbitrary? The horizon's not Earth curve then.
Right. They believe that Earth curve geometry is hidden, and that basically the visible horizon comes secondary due to a mysterious terrestrial refraction conjuration to support that.
Well, you're right, because that's what's documented, but that is just inked and papered, whatever you call it, written down, there's the one, cognitive dissonance. They're literally describing the paradox. Well, we'll move the geometric horizon with refraction at a rate of 7/6r or whatever derivative we need or would move the target with usually. We'll move our tangent point with it. No, you can't. That breaks the geometry. You can't bend a tangent. It's not a tangent anymore. So them having it documented that they move the horizon with an R value because we have a certain amount of terrestrial refraction, right? Well, no, you can't. You've no longer got geometry to perform anymore. Bye-bye model.
Right. But they have a very flexible optical fantasy as to what optics can do, and that is basically their savior, is their complete willingness to misunderstand how optics work.
There isn't any optics in their maths. Maths is geometric. When we used to say to them, it's just an effective perspective. And when we figured out there wasn't any perspective in their maths, had taken basically the Rayleigh criterion and converted it into 8 inches per mile squared. When we figured that out, we'd say to them, where's the perspective in your geometric model? And they go, it doesn't need it. It's geometric. That was their answer. We've turned it side on. Now geometric. So what they're going to come back with, well, because of optics, it's like, no. You justified being inside profile and removing all aspects of perspective. That would be angular size change over distance. And you justified it by saying, well, because we're in an orthographic view and representing geometry, we don't need to represent the perspective aspect. That was their get out. Well, that's saying we can't and don't and won't and will not, because it's the hijacking of that particular aspect of life that we see with our eyes, use perspective. They can't. The maths doesn't. It's hijacked it. and then incorporate it. Remember when Anthony Riley had his double dip? So he's like, why don't you also incorporate into the mathematics the effect of drop because of the optical drop, i.e. as things get further away from you, they're receding towards the horizon. That drop should be incorporated into your geometric drop. Well, why can't they incorporate it? Well, because the drop that they've got, their geometric drop, has hijacked the optical drop. They've just replaced what we see in reality based on perspective and called it Earth curve.
Absolutely.
And what is Earth curve? A physical geometric sphere edge horizon.
Absolutely right on point, Nathan. Chocolate.
What's up, fellas?
Yeah, I thought I seen you drop in there. What's up, man?
Hey, Chocolate, they've got an invisible horizon. The geometric horizon is, according to them now, a projection of the invisible geometric horizon. What would you say to that?
Come on, Nath. Nath, that's not what they claim. They've got an invisible horizon that's going around with a projector to give you the horizon that you can see. It's projecting, apparently, this invisible horizon, the one we see.
It
that's a bold
unfolds.
claim.
Okay, I got a couple of problems with that. First of all, invisible horizon? How does that work out when horizon is supposed to be visible?
Amen.
How does that work? And projecting? What? So the geometric horizon is now projecting the apparent horizon?
Yes.
So it's like the bat signal?
Yes.
Or something?
Exactly.
What the
It's
hell?
super mega looming.
It's
Well, that
very
sucks.
aggressive. And then aggressive looming.
Oh, it's a aggressive looming of a different character?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, there's gargantuan refraction.
Oh my god.
So this is what cleared it up because you weren't here, Chocolate, before. They confirmed it by saying it didn't resonate solid until he said this. I'm going to tell you what they said. So they said there are two horizons. This one gentleman said no one, like I said before, no one objected. Therefore, they are signatories. So he said there are two horizons: the invisible geometric horizon, which projects the apparent horizon to arbitrary locations. That's paraphrasing. That's what this is what he meant. He said this when he concluded. The necessary antecedent for an apparent horizon is a geometric horizon. See it now?
Wow.
That's classic.
The necessary antecedent. That's cute, guys. You started to try to catch on.
But in reply to that statement, if the necessary antecedent for an apparent horizon is a geometric horizon, and we do not see a geometric horizon, then it is not a necessary antecedent because we can't see it. Therefore, it's not a horizon.
But can't we have Brian's here, right? Brian, you've proved that the necessary antecedent for horizon isn't a geometric horizon with your tabletop, haven't you? And your hallway.
Brian, you got a hot mic.
But Brian's done that, hasn't he? He's done his hallway and he's generated horizons. But there was nothing geometric because it was all across his hallway and the like. So that's like instantly, demonstrably untrue with an iPhone and a table.
How is the necessary antecedent for something that you see, something that you don't see?
Do you have that video?
Because they believe in terrestrial refraction, that's why.
Confusing necessary antecedent with fundamentalist religious belief that I must assume.
I think that they're trying to do a little bit of an okie doke, right? Because obviously we say the necessary antecedent to gas pressure is a container, right? And all the time they say, well, show us the container, show us the container. Well, we have gas pressure, meaning we have to have a container. So they're saying they're trying to do the same thing. They're trying to just say, well, we have an apparent horizon, which is freaking redundant because the horizon's apparent. So I don't know why they're saying that. Well, I do, because all of a sudden they lost their geometric horizon. So now they had to start calling the horizon we do see apparent, because they didn't call it that before. All of a sudden, when they lost their geometric one, now we got to label the one that we already know as the apparent one, the one that we all damn see. Now that's labeled apparent because they don't have a geometric one.
Well, it's worse than that, Chuck, isn't it? Back to the Isle of Man. No, that horizon was definitively geometric. It was subject to 7/6R, but it was definitively geometric. That was the thing that was.
And the horizon was not. No. The horizon most definitely was not subject to 7/6R during the Isle of Man discussion. The targets, not the horizon.
Sorry. Yeah. Apologies. Well, that's worse for them.
Well, that's worse.
To call it an apparent horizon is utterly redundant. By definition, the horizon is the apparent location where the sky or sea meet.
Yes, sir.
Sky or land meet the sea. No, I'll get it right the third time. The land or sea meet the sky. We'll get there in the end. That is an apparent location by definition. So calling it the apparent position where the sky appears to meet the land or sea is redundant. It's just stupid. They call it that because they need to engineer in a extra little definition for a horizon, or an extra little descriptive word for a horizon. They can have two of them. What's the second one? Because horizons are something we can see. So what are you babbling about? We've only got one of them. No, the second one that only exists in our maths creates this apparent horizon that's redundant. You go, okay, isn't your horizon physically claimed to be physically blocking boats, and you give us physical maths for how much it's blocking them? Oh no, it's a projection of the geometric horizon, and next time a boat looks like it's missing a section at the bottom, I'm going to assert that it is physical and it's blocking it. But for now, because you've shown that it isn't, I'm going to say it's projected into a different position.
Oh, but you forgot about optics, Nathan.
There are no optics in their maths. They throw that back at us. Who was it? Kosho that threw it back at you.
No, it was Unorthodox who said that to us. Oh, you guys forgot about optics, Nathan. It's like, oh yeah, we forgot about our argument that we've been giving out to y'all for years now.
Yeah. Back in the Isle of Man discussion, we put to them, where's the perspective in your geometric side view mathematics for Earth curve that's a tangent point getting in the way? That's the geometric horizon, that's Earth curve. Where's the perspective? Oh, we don't need to use perspective, it's geometric. Why would we use perspective? Well, now it's, unorthodox. Why is this disappearing from the bottom up prior to your physical geometric horizon? Well, optics, that's not in your mathematics. You've only got one cause for things being blocked bottom up at the horizon. Well, that's because of your geometric physical sphere edge. Well, if that's happening prior to the sphere edge, what is it suddenly optics that don't exist in your world? Has it been hijacked and called Earth curve? No. It's just what we've been telling you for the last 4 straight years and been, told that perspective isn't real? Yeah, perspective's absolutely real. But we get stupid questions like, why can't I see Paris from New York? Because if Earth curve's not getting in the way, if I don't assert geometry, then nothing is getting in the way, and we should see those things at those vast distances. They're not too small to see in the mind's eye of a fundy with a globe belief, because there is no such thing as perspective in their worldview. It's inside on. It's in orthographic representation where you see the side of your own head. Well, when you're seeing the side of your own head and the target with a feet and inches value attributable to both, they don't change with distance. You can draw a line between the target and the observer, write 1 million miles on it, and say, why can't I see this thing at 1 million miles? It's not there. Look, all I see is the horizon, so that must be Earth curve. No, it's just too small to see, and that effect is completely hijacked and called Earth curve until we point out that we don't have a physical horizon.
If I don't have any topics, all I have to do is bring up horizons, and we can go on for hours.
Yep.
I thought I'd bring that up because, like I said, it just hit me. I wasn't paying too close of attention, but I thought it really funny because I got the view that Adam got. that this invisible geometric horizon has ascertained and requisitioned a projector. Let me just flash this apparent horizon up here for those guys. There you go. Unbelievable. I can't believe it's come to this.
It'd have to be a projector. It's not going to be just like drawing a line that you see. Because it also needs to project up everything that is bent and curving away to appear flat, doesn't it? It's not just a little projection it needs to do. It needs to render that curvy non-reality as if it's flat, yeah?
Yes. Yep, it's preposterous, ludicrousness, absurdity, man.
From here to there, when there should be a hill in the way, obstructing what you're seeing. I mean, that's the other thing it's got to do, the invisible horizon. It's got to re-render the foreground, hasn't it? So that looks flat as well.
Yes.
So it doesn't look like you're going up to a hill to meet where the geometric horizon is.
Yes.
So it'd have to re-render. So it'd need a double projector, John. Yeah.
Yes. Now, I've heard you guys mention the hill. Are you talking about the bulge?
Yes, that's correct. During the Isle of Man discussion, there was a point in the discussion where I dragged my mouse over the picture of the Isle of Man and directly addressed Rumpus and said, "What's this?" Pointing at the horizon. He didn't give me an answer. At the time, I didn't understand why something would stun him to silence when all I'm doing is dragging a mouse over what I was concentrating on, or the reasoning behind my question at the time, because I didn't know what I know now, was why is there a mirror band, like a mirage, that's about 2 or 3 millimeters wide at the horizon, right? Well, it's because it's the diffraction limit in that instance. You can see everywhere. You can see right as far as you can see. Yeah, seeing the diffraction limit because it's a really clear day. And that's what you get when you see that optical limitation. You see this like little tiny inferior mirage of the horizon below itself. It doesn't look anything physical in the slightest. Anyway, that stunned them to silence. Now, in light of the last 12 months with the Black Swan argument, we've reached a point where I now realize how monumentally significant, more so than we ever appreciated, that the Black Swan is. Because since then, we've had things like articles that give globe Earth believers hints and tips on how to debate their subject. How do you win your globe Earth argument? Well, your argument starts with the horizon. Well, that's what their argument begins and ends with. They've got an assertion that the horizon's Earth curve. How much does it bend from a plane window? Well, they love that argument because it assumes physicality to the horizon, and then we'll argue about how much that physicality is bent or not realizing that we're assuming that we've got a physical Earth curve edge horizon. And in the post-Black Swan days, we're now in the position where they're telling us, Joe, just how non-geometric, non-physical the horizon is. Glorious. That's glorious from my position where I don't lose any sleep over this. I can imagine it's a torturous time to be a glober. So how do you reconcile this? How do you square this circle? You don't. That's the answer. Don't move a horizon that's required to be physical and geometric to assert that it is Earth curve edge, and then move to your maths to tell us how much that Earth curve edge blocks things in the distance, only to then double speak and have your cognitive dissonance kick in and tell you that no, it's in an arbitrary position, it's non-physical. Nobody claims the horizon's Earth curve. That must be torturous.
Nathan, they have done it, mate. They've already gone and said, yeah, it's not physical. It's set up by a physical horizon that's got a Klingon cloaking shield and a double-ended projector. That's what they've resorted to, mate.
Shield.
It is exactly. That's what we're being rebutted with now from the days of what's that horizon, Rumpus? That's
No, it's your show, and this is super rude, QE, but you'll have to mute when other people are talking. You are actually causing the feedback.
No, I'm actually not, even though my mic is lighting up. I am on mute. It just lights up, but there's nothing coming through.
Hi. I'll use that excuse. Anyway, let's get to the gaffs. Enough about this physical geometric sphere edge horizon, formerly known as Earth curvature. It's dead. The horizon is not physical. anyone who wants to oppose that and challenge us, feel free to present your Earth curve mathematics so we can have a damn good laugh at your perspective hijacking mathematics inside view where we see the side of our own head. We'll point out it doesn't have any perspective. We'll point out that Al-Biruni can't measure a physical geometric sphere edge if it's non-physical. We'll point out that that relinquishes you of any claim of Earth curve. And we'll move on to the gaffs.
Let's go to the gaffs. Listen, guys, I put all the gaffs in the Baltards text chat. So as I go through them, you can look at them if you'd like, or just listen to them. I'm gonna do 20 at a pop. We'll go 20, 40, and then we'll say the last 10. Couple things. The numbering of these comments is completely arbitrary. I mean, they're not based on anything else but just randomness. So number 1 isn't the dumbest, and number 50 isn't the smartest, or vice versa. And each comment I personally either heard or witnessed in text. There's no hearsay here. Everyone, I wanted to make sure that it was either documented or I heard it specifically, personally. Got it? All right, let's roll. Let's go with the first 10. So, here we go. The rumpus. Air is not the atmosphere. Sly Sparkane. My physics experiment was double blind. George, not gonna work here anymore. A closed thermos is an open system. Mr. Sensible, at best, what you have done, you would have disproved the radius of the Earth. Brenda, as a response to what's the phenomena? Shoe. What's the hypothesis, Brenda? It's a shoe. From Zanuck, straight is straight and level is curved. From Timmy Clown, Timmy Osman, logical fallacy is better than nothing. From Danny T, responding to, so the plane is flying backwards? His answer, yes. Gem Panda, my presupposition, the laws of logic stand.
John.
Yes, sir?
Don't do 20. Don't do 20 yet, because you'll change the screen, and then number 2 is one of my all-time favourites, and then I'll forget.
All right, I'll just do 10 at a time.
Comment on, mate.
All right,
I've got to say.
All right, I'll do 10 at a time.
My physics experiment.
Hold on, I'm not done yet. We got one more. Steve McClown and the Clan McClowns. The speed of sound in a vacuum is constant. Go, take it, Adam.
That last one might steal it, but no. I just always like that one. My physics experiment was as good as... Is physics in bracket? Is he actually quoted that as well? Or is that implied what he was saying? Because I remember somebody doing the chemistry one and mugging yourself to see what the chemicals would do if the chemist is double blinded, stuck a blindfold on.
That was Charles Flat Earth Math. He got it off Sly Sparkane's comment right here.
Is it? He stole the dumbness.
Yeah, he did. It was on Anthony's. It was Anthony's video, and Flat Earth Math caught a hold of it and then made a similar comment. So he got it from Sly Sparkane. That's the irony of it.
That's what threw me there for a second, because it was always a chemistry one. But fair play. If you're going to adopt dumbness, good luck to you. Sorry. Yeah, sorry.
No, that's okay. Any other comments on these? Don't take too long now.
Oh, what you mixing? I don't know. You mix it.
You got the shoe in there.
I can always see like that Muppet scientist from the Muppet Show. That had no eyes, just pouring things in, not looking at it. Yeah, let's see what this
Beaker.
Beaker, yeah, there you go.
It's a Simpsons gag as well, isn't it? So he's in Bart Simpson's in the lab, and he's got these two test tubes, and the teacher says, "You do know what happens when you mix," I think she says, acids and bases. And he says, "Of course I do." Pours them into each other, and the entire lab explodes.
Yeah. All right, we already know the biggest one.
Favorite though.
Which one?
I got to give a shout out to George and his closed thermos is an open system.
That's an
He told
oldie,
us
man.
that. Yeah, man, that's a throwback right there.
Yeah.
That brings the feels in. Like, oh, look at this clown. Talking about open systems and closed systems. Yeah, good job, George.
I would venture to guess that might be the oldest on here. I never thought about it. I'll think about it as we go through but that might be the oldest one. I think that's right around 320, episode 320, Flat Earth Debate, somewhere in that vicinity.
Damn.
There's a complimentary one later in the list, I think, from Slice Barcane about open closed systems. But we'll get to it.
All right, we ready to roll?
Think so?
Yeah. From Zanuck, planes can fly motionless if they fly at 1,000 miles per hour eastward at the equator. Back to Brenda, DNA is made of amino acids. The Rumpus, you don't have to be conscious to make an observation. Soundly, gravity attracts gravity. That's what happens. That's the behavior of our reality. Philip Weinberg, PhD physics. Haven't heard from him in a while. But we remember this. We're talking about the physical sciences. The physical sciences don't care about the natural world. From Fight the Fat Girth, a hypothesis is an explanation. 12 seconds later, a hypothesis isn't an explanation. Brenda again. I can measure the amount of time in a table. Conspiracy cats. We just went over this on the last show. The second law of thermodynamics is about the movement of energy, not the movement of matter. The Rumpus. You don't need to have a cause to establish a cause and effect relationship. From Mick West, answering a question, what's the independent variable in your experiment, Mick? He replies, I don't know. What would you... Give me an example of an independent variable. Top 20. Have at it.
I faced palm like 3 times. Oh my god.
I think the Rumpus is classic because he contradicts himself within 2 words. Don't have to have a cause within a cause and effect relationship.
And it was also him that said you don't have to be conscious to make an observation. What?
That's the one that made me chuckle loudest.
That's the oldest one. That is from my debate with him 3 days after I became a flat earther. That was from that debate. So that's the oldest one.
The oldest one. That's got to be the oldest one then.
Which one? You don't have to be conscious to make an observation?
Yes.
What the
And that's what I want to keep my mouth open for him because I'm chuckling my way through them. And the reaction, obviously, there's no canned laughter. But if we are chuckling over the top of them, you won't hear any of them.
Yeah, that's why it was a good thing I was muted.
In a way, it is logical, you know, because if you leave baller zealots alone, unchallenged for too long, they come up with the most ridiculous sophistry arguments on things. They do. It's only when you start to poke them that they get all triggered, and then they start to pay a little bit more attention. Still not enough, but it does.
What Armin's been doing last week that's been annoying me. It's just clicked. But what he's doing is he's taking what is described as logical in this example, or over the last week on Flat Earth Debate, he described something as reasonable or acceptable because of a lot of people accepting it. Well, it is acceptable because so many people accept it. In other words, what he's doing is appealing to consensus. It just hadn't it hadn't twigged what he was doing. Like, no, the illogical nature of what they're claiming isn't logical. It's logical to assume that they'll assume it. That's what he's doing.
Right now?
All right. As long as I figure out how you tick, Arwen, you won't piss me off every single show. That's all I'm doing.
I'm just trying.
All right, so didn't number
hold on.
11 even register with you, or the rest that stupid not to figure? Let me say this again. Zanuck, planes can fly motionless if they fly at 1,000 miles an hour eastward at the equator.
If they're going eastward at 1,000 miles per hour, how is it motionless?
Do you really want me to answer? Because I can. It'll just take about 3 minutes. Want me to answer that?
No, you don't have to. It's okay. Just wanted to say it out loud. Sometimes I just want to say things out loud to
Sometimes it
accentuate
is.
how stupid it is.
It is stupid, and it's good to take these things in isolation and point out how stupid they are in isolation. But I do understand the rhetoric, defiance of that rhetoric, and the claim that defiance of the actual rhetoric leads to make such an absurd claim, which I could break down, but nobody wants to hear that about Coriolis effect today, I'm sure.
I pine for listening to you go on about the Coriolis effect.
But if they're going,
Lie.
See that? I mean, we do Coriolis every day, and that's cool. And stuff. But the one I'm looking at this one that just gravity attracts gravity. That's what happens. That's the behavior of our reality. Mr. Soundly, Mr. Geometric Horizon is word soup. What the hell is gravity attracts gravity?
I'll share on my channel.
Brian, mute up.
Fine.
How can that be? Hang on. Ridiculous.
You want to get him?
Sorry, I got it.
Your phone wants you to talk, apparently, or something. I don't know.
I've got him.
Sorry, that's the
You can hear us,
second
Brian. I've stuck you on normal mute, so you can unmute if you're ready.
Yeah, the gravity attracts gravity from Mr. Elliptoid. That's pretty funny. Okay,
Apologies.
There you go, Brian.
you're good. You're just hot micing. All right, we ready to roll? Or we done with these? You guys want any more meat on the bone here you can gnaw into?
What was the Mick West one again?
The Mick West, to an answer to the question, what's the independent variable in your experiment, Mick? He said, I don't know. What would you... Give me an example of an independent variable.
And that was after not knowing the three parts of an experiment. And then saying something like, oh, we don't even need to manipulate variables in an experiment. Like, he just lost the plot that day.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct, and I'm glad you've mentioned that because it perfectly precedes what I'm about to say. Mick West assumes the title of, I kid you not, science communicator.
Yes, sir. And then he denied it, but it's in his wiki profile. It's on my website on the front page. If you scroll all the way down, you'll see what he says.
That's scary.
That's one of those things that slipped me by, until it was highlighted to me that it hold on. What does that actually mean? It's almost and to the understanding that actually the only thing it can mean is it's a pre-qualification that I'm not speaking as a scientist, just a science communicator. I want to communicate on behalf. Science has employed me to communicate on their behalf, which basically means politics.
Because what did they call you? Like, if you were the one doing the science, right? They would label you scientist, right? Like some idiot. Like,
Well, no,
Michelle.
exactly, because it's quite weird. Because they've got a whole pseudoscience fraternity, and they've decided within that little community who's going to be dubbed the scientist. Right now, bearing this in mind, right? None of them are scientists. None. Zero. Nada. Not one of them are scientists. But in that little bullshit community of what they call science, they decide Who's going to be allowed to use that magic trick and to what extent? Mick West, you're allowed to use the magic trick a little bit. You can call yourself a science communicator. Now, what does that actually translate into? Pseudo-science bullshitter. That's what it actually means. Bearing in mind that the grand poobah of all this, people like Neil deGrasse Tyson, well, they're just pseudo-science practitioners as opposed to pseudo-science communicators. All of this is falling under the banner of what they call science. Now, the only people who can claim to be scientists, to answer Chocolate's question or a statement, are people who have performed an actualization of a hypothesis. Those people, for that brief moment, if you will, can say, for this moment, I am not even by definition a scientist, because in the definition, person who varies and manipulates that which is assumed to cause the effect that you've observed in nature, it's called a researcher.
I just think if
I just have
who's
something curious.
communicate?
Sorry, Adam. Go ahead.
I'll make it quick, John. Like if I was employed by NASA, right, I could be called a NASA communicator. Yeah, if I was employed by, I don't know, the government, I could be Her Majesty's government's communicator. When did science employ Mick West to become their communicator? I don't. It is a completely made up title, is my point, to elucidate, like with a lot of the pseudoscience they produce, elucidate that there's some qualification. Mick West is here in some form of authority. Yeah?
But,
this is it.
but here's what's funny, Adam, right? So real quick, so I just, for the hell of it, I said, all right, let me Google George Musser, right? So George Musser pulls up, you pull him up, he comes up as an American author, right? And then when you go to Mick West, let me go back to Mick West, he's labeled American British science writer, right? So you got George Musser, who, like, again, they label as an American author because he obviously writes for Scientific American and all that, right? So they've got him just as an author, but then they've got Mick West as the science writer. So you would think that Mick West has the authority in science over this guy, George Musser, just simply because they put science in his title.
Meaning pseudoscience by the sounds of it. Do you know what I mean? If you go
right. Because even in that mainstream community, I would give George Musser more props than Mick West, right? But he's just a cursory research. Huh?
Isn't an author a storyteller?
Well,
not always.
I mean, you could write. It could just be fictional and non-fictional.
Right,
so
not always.
Not really.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I went and tracked it down, Mick West, over here on my website. So this is Wikipedia. This is what it says in Wiki. Mick West is a science writer, skeptical investigator, and retired video game programmer. He is the creator of websites Contrail Science and Metabunk, for which he investigates and debunks pseudoscientific claims such as chemtrails, UFOs, and conspiracy theories, and has appeared in various media as an expert analyst and science communicator. Right here, right? But in our debate, he said, I don't say that I'm a science communicator. There you go.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
just to reiterate the point, though, this is a community of people that have hijacked a term that means empiricism. That would be science, which is a method. So it doesn't appoint anybody anything. And that's what they've hijacked in terms of their magic trick to convince the world of their just so stories with this word, science. Sometimes they use experiments, sometimes they use hypothesis, sometimes they use theory. But they'll use all of these magic words which have meaning, and when used in the proper way, can offer empiricism. Now, none of what they're doing offers this, and Mick West, bottom of the tree, in terms of it's totally so far devoid of anything even associated closely with the actual method of science. Mick West's so far away from that, it's untrue. But in his little community of bullshitters and pseudoscientists, he's been labelled as appropriately as they think it's necessary within their magic use of the word science. How much of the magic word of science does Mick West deserve? Well, he deserves to be a science communicator. Oh, does he? No, it's as Adam correctly identified. When you see the word science, in this instance, science communicator, just replace it for what it actually is. Is he communicating cause and effect reasoning based on a hypothesis? He doesn't even know what these terms mean. Give him an example of an independent variable. No, he's definitely not a science communicator. That is very much inaccurate and proven, demonstrably so by Quantum Eraser. So definitely not a science communicator. He hasn't got the first clue what science is. So why has he got this term? Well, because when they say science, they mean pseudoscience. An irony of ironies around debunking pseudoscience. No, he is pseudoscience, and he's communicating pseudoscience. Now, the fact that he goes around claiming to debunk pseudoscience is neither here nor there when he argues the toss for a reified physical geometric sphere edge in his Earth curve mathematics. He's very much got his horizon marks as a tangent point, because he knows which ways his bread is buttered in terms of the pseudoscience community. He's definitely got to be on the right side of people like Neil deGrasse Tyson, who actually assert the genuine Earth curve rhetoric. And that's why he's got a tangent point marked with an X and labelled horizon in his mathematics. And that's why he gets to use a little bit of the magic trick and become a communicator. Because he knows that he's got to assert a tangent point physical geometric sphere edge, formerly known as Earth curvature. It's right there in his maths, marked with an X and labelled horizon. Therefore, he gets to use a little bit of the magic. He gets to use the word science, and no one's going to call him out on it. Are any of his peers going to say, you don't know anything about the cause and effect reasoning that the scientific method is utilising? No, you do not. No, none of his peers are going to call him out on that. But he might get an entry in Wiki that says he's communicating science, in brackets. No, communicating a bit of the pseudoscience bullshit that the establishment like. He gets to use some of the magic. Good for you, Mick, you thick twat.
Yep. And shout out to him for coming on Flat Earth Debate and completely conceding that R, based on your standard model, absolute presupposition. Thanks for that, Mick. That was like way back at like episode 267. Yeah. That was awesome.
Remember?
And here we are with you guys absolutely relinquishing your geometric horizon. It's beautiful.
Remember,
you guys
he made a song about it. Remember that?
Yeah.
Have we had a response or badgered Mick? Because, I mean, he is the king of the horizon being geometric, isn't he? He's got a website devoted to the full solidity of that geometry and being obstructive. I thought he'd have at least chimed in, actually.
Yeah, you would have thought he would have, after the Black Swan, he would have showed up and, with the cape on and you peasants.
Or took his website down.
You slight flat earthers don't know what you're talking about. Here, let me solve this for you.
No, Mick West won't do that. That's what I'm trying to get at. So I was alluding to this earlier. So we're in the trenches, and Mick West has done his time in the trenches, right? Now he's on the side of the Neil deGrasse Tysons. He's been anointed with his magical pseudoscience terminology as pseudoscience communicator, aka science communicator, because of his adherence to the actual rhetoric. The actual rhetoric in this example, as it's been discussed for the majority of the show, is physical sphere edge marked with an X in his maths, right? So we're saying in this instance, why aren't we seeing Mick West come with his cape? Because he's hoping to get another appearance with bloody Joe Rogan or in front of Neil deGrasse Tyson or something of that nature, so we can quote the actual rhetoric, not deal with us pointing out that the horizon's not physical in trench level. He's hoping to have ascended beyond that. And that's what I'm getting at. He's anointed with the pseudoscience priesthood's approval to use this magic terminology when it's absolutely nothing to do with adherence to actual science. But Mick West's using a bit of that magic. Well, for instance, we couldn't do that, and you might get in a bit of trouble if you're hand-cooked tires claiming a bit of science when you're not actually doing any science. You might get called out by actual scientists on that. But in terms of pop culture and Globe Earth, which is all Globe Earth is, you've got somebody who's being pushed up the ranks, and they're going to have to actually quote the real rhetoric. Because when it comes down to the nitty-gritty of what Globe Earth is claiming, he's going to be one of the people that will now toe the line with that. Certainly not somebody who's going to come down to trench level anymore.
You reckon that the bestowed ornament of scientific communicator means that, say, because he has disappeared with his gob, so much that he falls then into the field of like Neil deGrasse and Brian Cox, where he's no longer allowed to communicate with us plebs. That
probably, I wouldn't be at all surprised, and it certainly seems to be the case. I mean, maybe I'll be proven wrong and Mick West will show his ugly head, but ultimately speaking, what's he going to do? When it comes to the Black Swan, there is no rebuttal. And the rebuttal is we're supposed to have what his calculator shows. What we've argued about for months on end with the Isle of Man. We know the intricacies of his calculator like the back of our hand. You know, right through to the advanced section, what the horizon's supposed to be doing at the edges and how much it curves and how much bulge we've got and all of the different aspects and parameters of the calculator we've looked into. And we know how they argue it. Right? Well, that's arguing for physical geometry and Earth curve obstruction. It's physical horizons. That's what his calculator is, right? Well, his trench level rhetoric from us now is similar to the reason why Neil deGrasse Tyson wouldn't come, right? Just lay this out. Bear with me. I beg your indulgence, right? Neil deGrasse Tyson comes to Flat Earth debate and says, you know what, lads? I can prove Earth's spinning. How is that so, Mr. deGrasse Tyson? How would you prove the Earth is spinning? Well, I was at a football game, and as the ball travelled through the air, I watched it drift through the goal because Earth turned underneath. Here's how much. Here's the calculation. Earth turns underneath the ball, and it seems to curve through the goal. It's apparent deflection. It's called Coriolis effect. We go, wow, that's amazing. So because Earth's a non-inertial turning reference frame and the ball's left it, we observe Coriolis effect, like in a roundabout, right? Seems to be curving, but isn't because we're turning underneath, right? Proving Earth spins, Mr. deGrasse Tyson, according to you. Yes, Nathan, that's right. I claim Earth turned under a football. That proves we're turning. I go, really? Well, that was shortened flight times because Earth would be turning underneath the blimp that was filming the game and a drone that was hovering and an aeroplane that was traveling from Charlotte to LA would only take an hour and a half if the Earth was turning underneath it, as you're claiming it turns underneath the ball. They're also not attached. Now, what is Mr. deGrasse Tyson going to come back with at that point? I tell you what, absolutely squat, because it debunks his assertion. His assertion, Earth turns underneath a football. That's the actual rhetoric. Coriolis effect. Well, that's very quickly debunked. And you point out a comparative item in the air for a significant period longer that's not deflecting, debunking his claim. Because the thing that would have more apparent deflection, that would mean you notice it, would be the thing in the air for the longest period. Not a football or a bullet, as they actually claim, in line with the rhetoric. And Mr. deGrasse Tyson claims his globe proofs in line with the actual rhetoric. That is Coriolis deviation observable as we turn underneath stuff, like a football. We debunk it with an aeroplane flight that's not got shortened flight times, end of argument. But we need our argument that Earth isn't turning under planes to be met with a different rebuttal that is absolutely not in line with the Coriolis claim that Globe Earth makes. Some bullshit that we get at trench level that Earth and atmosphere move together. Yeah? On that bullshit assertion that would require some form of containment that we definitely don't have. First law of thermodynamics violation when describing planes ascending into velocities of air that's moving, also violated by the multiple surface winds. All this nonsense that we actually argue about, and I can now concisely summarise, wouldn't be necessary if we had the actual claim laid out as it is by Mr. deGrasse Tyson. Now, I gave you all of that preamble, so I can say in the case of Mick West, it's the same as their actual claim with Coriolis. There's an actual claim that the horizon is physical, quantifiable in terms of feet and inches obstruction at that physical Earth curve edge horizon. That's the actual rhetoric. Debunked by the Black Swan, we get all sorts of crazy nonsense at trench level. Well, it's a projection of a not actual horizon. Well, it's not a horizon, then we can't see it. Well, it's an invisible horizon. Well, then it's not a horizon, we can't see it. Well, that invisible horizon's projected up to give us the antecedent consequent relationship of an apparent horizon. apparent, redundant, horizon, and apparent both mean you would see it. So you can't have a visit, and so we go on. You can't have Mr. deGrasse Tyson, or in this case, Mick West, who's got a calculator that says Earth curve. Well, that's based on geometry, tangent point to the physical horizon. He can't come along and start justifying how that point in his calculator that's supposed to prove Earth's sphere isn't physical anymore. It absolutely flies in the face of his claim. Well, we know that here, and the trench level fundies that can deny it with their cognitive dissonance don't know it. Now, whether or not Mick West knows it, it'd be lovely to have him come along and say, this marked with an X point horizon in my maths that I said blocked boats and buildings at the calculable values below isn't actually physical at all. It's projected. I'd love to hear him say some shit like that. I'd play it 1,000 times.
That's what I'm saying, man. I want him to come along. I mean, he's big dog, right? Just come along and say, hey, guys, I got you. You know, so have the balls that, you know, somebody like Danny Faulkner had, who said, you know, you weren't looking for the answers. You don't got the answers. I got the answers. You're asking the wrong questions. You went to YouTube to find answers for something, but I got those. Like, I want him to have those type of balls. Yeah,
Dr. Danny Faulkner, the answer man.
The answer man, of course.
Yeah,
I got that.
But a lot of things. Hold on a second. Hold on, one second, Adam. You said you guys were making a lot of comparisons. I noticed with Neil deGrasse Tyson, Smoking deGrasse, Brian Cox. Who else did you bring up? George Moser, right? Those people actually have pseudoscience degrees. What does Mick West got?
I know. That's why it bugs me out that when you Google both of them, and it's Mick West that comes up with the science attached to his name, right? But George Moser doesn't? How does that work?
Go ahead, finish it out, Adam, then we'll move on.
Yeah, all of them, they haven't got pseudoscience degree in Mick West, but what he's got is something that he's tied to. A piece of rhetoric that, you look at the Coriolis virus symptoms that ballers will often go against, which is their ball blasphemy or going against the statements of these priests. And one of the things to go against now that Mick West is tied to is his geometry. So if I ever saw Mick West, you've only got 2 words for Mick West. That's black swan. Yeah? And that's why he's protected, because their principles of what they go against, like Neil deGrasse, they can't be engaged in debate, yeah, because they're just things that the priest has to now say. They're so contradictory that these people couldn't engage in an actual honest debate with them because it would destroy what you can't have. You can have trench level ballers destroyed on this, contradicting themselves left, right, and centre, but you certainly couldn't have the Archbishop of Baldham getting contradicted, yeah? and in these songs. So they're then got to be taken away.
The Archbishop Baldwin?
Same.
What was it?
Archbishop of Baldwin, yeah.
Baldwin.
Well, the point is, and just to reiterate Adam's point, right? You can't have Mick West saying, we do have a geometric horizon. We don't have a geometric horizon. Well, we do have a geometric horizon. You can't have that happen.
Not with his webpage flicking between it having a geometric horizon, explaining what you can't see, and it then suddenly disappearing and projecting another horizon behind its invisibility cloak. Mick can't do that now. He's now tied to a fundamental, so he's gone. He's now. He won't. He couldn't, could he? What could he do?
Right. So what you need is a faceless, nameless troll like the Rumpus, with a namesake that means disturbance. Come and double speak and obfuscate and lie to an audience about how we do have a geometric horizon. Well, we don't have a geometric horizon. It only exists in the maths. Well, we do have a geometric horizon. That looked very bad on the man claiming we've got physical Earth curve obstruction marked with an X labeled horizon and with a whole string of mathematics for how much that physical Earth curve obstruction blocks things by. That's what his calculator does. Yeah. What's that you cry? It's projected. Yeah. Mick West screwed.
When you had Mick West on, Nathan, with the Isle of Man stuff and all of these calculators. You had him arse end up. You know what I mean? Imagine now sticking the black swan in front of him with it. He's just nailed, isn't he? Metaphorically to a. Won't give him a cross.
Well, I can envisage how it would go. Who's the guy who's the guy with the donkey dick horizon? What's that guy's name? Come on, someone help me out.
You mean Uncle Bubby or the guy?
No, not Al-Baruni. The guy who's current that's saying you must draw a line of sight to the geometric horizon. Now we're going to invoke terrestrial refraction and bend the line of sight to a position.
AB Science or something? Was that him?
No.
Or Rumpus?
Is it a calculator?
No, the guy who's got a published paper on this that Rumpus refers to.
Oh,
Yes.
you're Andrew Thomas Young.
Andrew Thomas Young. Right. So if Mick West was held up against the wall on this, what he would do is invoke that particular part of Andrew Thomas Young's rhetoric, which is to say, in the geometry of a presupposed spherical Earth, we draw out a tangent line to a physical geometric sphere edge horizon. Like Al-Baruni did, I add myself. He wouldn't mention that. Nevertheless, he'd say we draw a line of sight to a position that we ultimately can't see. And then we use the maths from that apparent horizon that we can't see to bend the line to the horizon to a not actual position we'll call the apparent horizon. The apparent position where the sky apparently meets the apparent. Yeah, that is what they'll call it. Well, all they've done is bent a tangent line. In other words, broke the geometry. They're saying the geometry maths is based on the physical Earth curve edge, you said block stuff. That's no longer got a tangent anymore. How'd you do geometry then, Mick? Bendy geometry, but donkey dick geometry, right? Oh, you don't. You need a tangent. And what is the tangent? Well, in Earth curve maths, it's the physical Earth curve edge horizon, formerly known as Earth curve. But what's Mick West going to do? Have donkey dick tangent lines? Well, that just breaks his maths. It's as simple as that.
We ready to move on?
Would have been a bad idea.
we-
West pummeling by my
Probably
account.
should.
We probably
We should move on, but I can't stress.
Go ahead.
I can't stress the importance of this enough, right? It's taken a year to get to this stage, and I don't want to let it die.
And you
Huey's
should.
causing feedback. You won't let me get.
Yeah, you definitely got feedback, Kiwi.
I'm going to mute up. I'm not going to get. You know,
Go ahead. You're good. Go ahead. Let it out.
I need you to mute because you're causing feedback, but you'll refuse to accept that you're causing it.
I am not
It's
causing
important.
it on mute.
Yeah, let's have this row instead, while we have lots of me feeding back.
Yeah, something's
Please,
happening.
please.
That's bad.
Yeah, Huey, it's you that's flashing while you deny it's you causing. Thank you. So it's important that we stress this. It's been a year plus of us pointing out that the horizon is in a geometrically impossible position in the black swan. Now, the rebuttal is that we have a non-physical horizon now. And the claim of Earth curve is the claim of geometry. And I can't stress this enough. It breaks Mick West. Now, I'd forgotten about him until he came upon this shit list, as it were. His gaff list, sorry. I'd just forgotten. But that is what the premise of the Black Swan debunks. The geometry. The physical geometric limitations of a sphere we're claimed to stand on. And that is exemplified by those mathematics. That is the claim. So while we might get into the wrangle-dangle of cognitive dissonance-laden fundies and trench level, who are going to tell us that we've got a non-capable of drawing a tangent line point that's reified into a non-actual position based on their presupposition of geometry that can no longer measure, all that wrangle-dangle is pointless, is non-necessary. Just our fun, if you will, at trench level with cognitive dissonance-laden people who come here to challenge us. But they haven't got anything to challenge us with this. It's been over a year. Well, the challenge should be restated as follows. The assertion that we have the Earth curve in Mick West's maths, or any Earth curve maths, they're all the same. Well, that is debunked by the Black Swan. Mick West's maths. We have it on screen when we're arguing about it, and I say here it is marked with an X labeled horizon. That is Earth curve geometry that's been debunked.
And you guys rebut us by telling us that we haven't got a physical horizon. Like, right, you haven't got the assertion that we've got boats and buildings blocked at a physical feet and inches value anymore then. That's the end of the game. Yeah, I'm going to insist that the host of the show, it being incredibly rude, and tell him to shut up on his own show so that I can stress this, because I want it to be made absolutely abundantly clear. When we say Earth as a sphere debunked, number one proof, black swan, the reason we bark on about it so much is because that is your claim. Your claim is Earth curve, physical obstruction at the horizon. That is what your Earth curve is. Your Earth curve is the horizon. Yeah? There it is in Mick West's maths. That's why he's being singled out in this instance. There it is in his maths. It says horizon. Right? Tangent point. That's your geometry. So if the people who don't understand the black swan haven't understood the significance of it, your horizon isn't physical anymore, and that breaks your geometry. And that's Mick West's maths. Yeah, I've got to get it out. I've got to let this stuff out. I'm sorry, QE. I'm done now.
I have a super chat, by the way.
Go ahead,
I missed one earlier. Right, so Adriel in chat, $4.99. Why can't you trust an atom? Because they make up everything.
Thanks, Adriel. Appreciate it.
Very good. I like that.
We good? We ready to move?
Chemist Christmas cracker joke.
Yeah, I've dragged out the gaff on, what is it, number 20. Sorry.
Oh, we're lucky I don't have any more Mick West. All right, let's rock. Now, if you get in deeper, there's this thing called a double blind or a blind experiment where the chemist doesn't even know the substances he's mixing together. That's Charles Flat Earth math. So, like I said, Sly Sparkane made the comment in the chat section, and Charles Flat Earth math was in that chat section, and he took it over and went on his show and started barking these nonsensical buffooneries out. Good one, Charles. From Bob the Science, pseudoscience fallacy guy. So basically, that's all I have to say about it. It's, my gravity is the fact that my phone flips. From Jim Panda, straw man, the Earth isn't spinning that fast. It's only one revolution every 24 hours. From Miles Davis, your argument can be dishonest without having the intention to deceive. From the Rumpus, the second law of thermodynamics doesn't apply to the Earth. Negator, why don't balloons disappear from the bottom up when moving up and away? From an actual doctor, physician, John Wallace, babies also cannot walk for 12 to 18 months due to adjusting to the spin of the Earth. That's why we throw up and can't walk until about 14 months. The Rumpus again. There's no such thing as natural laws. You just made that up. Brenda, you can weigh the Earth using a toothpick. Professor Phil Belland, answering a comment, water vapor is a gas, says that's the dumbest thing I ever heard. Have at it.
There's a lot of dumb ones there, right? The one that got me head chewing was negators. Oh, and you should use this, bruv. Yeah? Why don't balloons disappear from the bottom up and moving up and away? That's just a good headbender. Just a great distraction, ball of distraction statement.
Yep. Fraction statement. Very good. Yep. That's exactly what that is. Wait, what?
A balloon.
Why
would it do that?
Remember the QE, how many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Roll Pop? True or false?
True or false? Yes or no? All right, that's it. That was a quick one. You guys sure about that?
I mean, we could drag out the 2 days it took the numpties that were discussing it. The water vapor being gas, it just begged belief because there was so many people pointing out to them. And I know they've now whittled it down to 3 days. 2 days. But I'm pretty sure it took them 3 straight days of us saying, you numpties, what are you talking about? And them laughing at us and saying, you're so silly. Like 3 straight days.
That's the point, Nathan, on that one, isn't it? It's not so much the statement, because we can all make little gaffes, but the fact that they stood behind it and defended other people with it, do you know what I mean? And still ridiculed those that were pointing out the obvious to them. That's the good one about that to me. That it's like, seriously, you'll back anything, won't you? Just to still keep a vague semblance in your own head that you're winning the argument. And in this case, we have to deny that wallpaper is a gas.
Just on a similar topic, you hear me have rumpus over a barrel about a kettle?
Yep.
You mean gas is solid?
Which way it's leaving?
With gases moving up and accelerating down at the same time.
Yep. I can't wait for that one to come out. When's that coming out, Nathan?
I thought it had already come out.
Nathan.
It might come out. In fact, it does actually come out after this show. So I've scheduled it for 10. Right. We might go on a bit longer. We'll see. But I'll reschedule it so that it comes out as soon as the show finishes. I'll plug it at the end. I'm not doing an hour and trying to squeeze a plug in, by the way.
I think you need to re-listen to that, because earlier you were talking about when we was at Isle of Man stuff, and you pointed out the horizon, and the rumpus wouldn't describe it as the edge of the geometric Earth. Yeah, for some reason, and it was bugging me when the show was on, why he kept saying it was accelerating downwards while going up, and we were all laughing because obviously that's a nonsense. But the point is, he's avoiding saying that it's decelerating, that the action of the gas molecule is changed by gravity. Yeah, he's doing something there. I don't know what he's avoiding exactly. But he wouldn't use the word decelerating. He was saying he was accelerating down, which is obviously nonsense, which we were laughing at. But he's hiding, or in his own twisted mind, telling some perverse truth still. I don't know how he works, but that was noticeable. It's probably worth people listen to, because he persists with that non-statement of it's decelerating down, even when ridiculed with it.
Yeah. Gas does not go down, go boom, boom, like bouncy balls poured into a fish tank, as asserted by PhD Clown Thunderfoot. And Rumpus was arguing that point. Like, you debunked that with a kettle.
No,
they argue it.
He's saying he's not. He was saying it was accelerating down. He wasn't saying, right, it was decelerating, and therefore by kind of following logic, that there's a force applied to it which is slowing it down, affecting the molecule's behavior.
It's almost like he was forced to say down, right? Because decelerating means it's still going the same direction, up.
Yeah.
But he had to instill in us that this is definitely going down. That's why he had to do it. But that's happening at the kettle, but then somehow gas gets to 60 miles up and it turns around and does the same thing. So, way to go.
But to make that assertion, though, where we caught him out was because at some point he has to do it really early and hope it slips by. So he starts an example by saying, okay, fine. The gas leaves the kettle at, 500 meters per second. It's like, what? Up? What do you mean? It's going up at 500 meters per second. It's not gravity, not down, not go boom boom, not like bouncy balls. Of course, if he is in his mind, because we know his bag, thinks that if he can get that disclaimer in early, right, and then move past it really quickly and get to the point where he can come up with a physical reification of a mathematical description of what he's going to say happens to these gas particles and give a conspiracy cats-esque description of them running out of energy, having a little party, maybe a little burning of the bras in defiance of natural law, and then falling back down and go boom boom like bouncy balls. Right? But he has to get past the part where he says, right, they're going to accelerate up at a massive rate in total defiance of gravity.
I might just add that Dave Rakia caught out at the time of the water vapor controversy.
Huey might have assumed that little and went on further. He's disappeared to get a brew.
Can you hear, Nathan, can you hear Brian talking?
Yeah, we hear you now.
Your sound is coming through really bad on Discord, but on the show, I checked on YouTube, you're coming through very clearly.
It's good. It's QE's processors obviously assigned the show is more important than us, so we're getting a slightly distorted QE, but the show's fine. That's all that matters. Arwin, yes, you're right. I heard you say you checked, so good.
Yeah, I checked.
All right, now I'm going to ask this question one more time. Hold on. Are you hearing Brian's logic, Nathan?
Am I hearing what?
Brian.
No, I think it's an issue with,
Hello, Nathan,
you.
can you hear me?
I've dropped and rejoined a few times. If you maybe you can drop and rejoin because we're getting a really distorted signal from you, all of us. I didn't want to mention.
He's asking if we can hear Brian's logic. I could hear him. Just speak up just now.
Oh, I couldn't hear him.
Oh dear.
Join.
Yeah, cause it's you.
It's your terrible QE. You're popping. It's really.
Really? All right.
That's
I'll be
why
back
I
in a
just
second.
dropped
All
and
right.
came back.
Sorry, folks. I have to drop them for a second. I'll pop back in.
I had.
How about now? Is that a little better?
Oh, it's loads
thank
better.
God.
Yes.
It must be a Discord issue.
Finally, the scratching on the board is gone.
Yep, it's a Discord issue. I think we got it squared away. Nathan, radio check.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah, wise. Yes.
I'm only
I
checking.
think you got something stuck in your throat.
Take one.
Go ahead.
Right,
Hey,
radio
Brian was
check.
saying, hold on, Chocolate. Brian was saying something. Brian, you want to continue?
Yes, Kiwi, thanks. I'm just jogging everyone's memory that one of the bowlers on Jose's was caught out by Dave Rakia back at the time of the water vapor controversy, trying to hide half of a reference definition of what water vapor is.
There'd be no
That's
curvature, to be sure. Well, thank you very much, Brian. It's good to have your input.
Yeah, that's on the Numpty playlist. That is a baller named No Name. He's already enshrined in the baller playlist, by the way.
Yes, I remember you getting that and making a clip out of it.
I'm sorry, the Numpty clip playlist. Sorry, go ahead.
But we're getting
Okay.
clips because we didn't hear them. We didn't know. Sorry. The audience is getting them.
What?
So, Brian, you're saying, yeah. Nathan, can you hear Brian?
Oh, no, I can't still. My bad,
I can
Brian.
hear
I'm so
Ryan.
sorry.
So I'll drop
Oh,
you,
now I can.
that's what I'll do. And I'll come in and just listen because there's obviously problems with my Discord or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not you, Brian. I think Discord is having some problems today. Go ahead,
Brian,
Brian.
you can hear me,
Brian,
right?
go ahead, say something. And then, Nathan, can you hear him right now?
Hello, Nathan.
Nathan, did you hear that?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Not me, but
Both dropped
Brian.
and rejoined. The problem's over, I think.
Okay. All right, we good?
Yeah, make me giggle again. Give me some more numptiness.
Oh,
There's QE gone.
Here we go. Here we go. Patience. Okay? Relax.
I deal with them all week. Weekend.
All right, here we go. From Michelle Thaler, NASA scientist communicator. There's no such thing as life, really. We're just very complicated rocks. Chikey.
Ooh.
You
Classic.
don't need gas pressure to have gas pressure gradients. R.C. Meisty. Which one do you want? Magnetic west or true west? Zanuck. The effect of time is the cause of time. Brenda. Thoughts are physical. Hillbilly Blue Balls, the redneck retard, aka the photosynthetic redneck. Listen to me. That's how it overcomes gravity. It doesn't overcome gravity. The rumpus. Pendulums go around in a figure 8. The rumpus again. Measuring things is not mass. Soundly, you can't understand the elliptoid. Ha ha ha. And Gem Panda. There is no such thing as objective proof in our existence. Have at it.
I can't.
Man, really need to just think about all that.
The one that made me spit wine was number 35. In at number 35, Brenda. Thoughts are physical. I mean that's like Nietzsche. That's like profound.
And then that followed right up with, listen to me. That's how it overcomes gravity. It doesn't overcome gravity. What is wrong with these people?
Brenda is just an artist. She's like a Dadaist
God.
philosopher. No?
You don't need the gas pressure to have gas pressure gradients. Bro.
It's the complicated, the
What?
complicated rocks thing actually part of the rhetoric. Does that span from some actual rhetorical nonsense they spew?
On video, yes. It's that NASA
Yeah,
lady. What's her name again? She said it
Michelle
on,
Thaler.
yes, on video during an interview. And the guy that was interviewing was kind of shocked and had to suppress his laughing. Yeah.
That doesn't answer my question. Is it part of heliocentric rhetoric? Because the only connection I could draw is that they claim we, as elementally speaking, are born in the heart of dying stars. That's where your elements are forged in the heliocentric model. And then the implosion or the explosion of that star blasts out that newly formed material into the solar system, and then eventually it coalesced into Earth. And because nature created us from all of that material, we're essentially, born from stars. Therefore, that's the only connection I could draw to her asserting that we're just complicated rocks. That's what I thought she was driving at. Am I wrong?
Am I coming through?
She basically goes on to say, like, we're like a chemical reaction that became complicated enough to become sentient, right? We're not really life. Like, this lady there's numerous times when it's like there's no such thing as life. It's like we're just rocks that used to be gas, and she'll say things like, oh, like the idea that we were all hydrogen gas 13 million years ago, we could take a picture of that. I mean, this is a nutbag beyond belief. But yeah, it is in their rhetoric, at least for her too, because she likes to say it a lot, that we're just rocks and shit.
I think what she means when she says, like, take a picture of that, she means that you take a picture of the galaxy very, very, very far away.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And that's so long ago because of the speed of time. It's also long ago what you're looking at out there. So
Yeah,
that was
well,
what that was
yeah.
referring to, probably.
That's correct.
Chocolate.
Yeah, you look.
I'm thinking, right, if we are just complicated rocks that develop consciousness, maybe you could have a double-blind chemistry experiment.
Well, you'd have to be as dumb as a rock.
That is an interesting part of their rhetoric that Arwen's pointing out, though, because they are literally, that is part of their rhetoric to assert that as you look into the stars, I think they actually date that, is it 17 billion? Is that the timeline? They get that from the CMB, right? So they're literally claiming to look back through time.
Right, it's very, very
And she
old
blatantly
light
says it.
that is
Well,
reaching us.
we could just take a picture of that. And like Arwen said, the guy that she was talking to was face palming and laughing. Like he was trying to take her seriously, but the things that she was saying was so outrageous. Like, oh man.
Yeah, they talk about things like the pillars of creation. So if you ever see, there's a Hubble image called the Pillars of Creation, and it's beautiful. It's a really interesting picture, and it's as far as I can ascertain, it is actually taken from the night sky. But then there's a whole load of, changing of the color shifting from various light that we don't see into visible spectrums to make it more pretty, if you will. Nevertheless, it's, as far as I can ascertain, it's a real picture. They claim that it's something so far away based on the hour assumption and the astronomical values that they derive from assuming Venus is the same size and applying Kepler's third law to give you these massive distances. Right? Well, based on those massive distances, obviously these things that we're seeing at those exponential distances, including the pillars of creation, are claimed to be absolutely ginormous. Bearing in mind, these are teeny tiny things that you've got to look through a telescope and really struggle to look at. Right, take long exposures of. But they claim that that's just because it's massive and really far away. And what you're looking at in that beautifully coloured image is the creation of our existence. That's what they say it looks like. The pillars of creation are named such because they say that's the gas is about to coalesce into all these different stars. It's complete nonsense.
I was going to say, are they not gas clouds in the vacuum of space?
That's correct. That's correct. That's exactly what they're saying. They are debris gas clouds in the vacuum are about to coalesce. That's correct, Adam. Complete nonsense.
What? Wait, we can't be looking at something that was us, that doesn't make any sense.
Owen, if you look at them, they're also exceptionally phallic. And if this thing was coalescing, you would expect the formation of it to have some kind of spherical nature by now. If it's about to kick into the
No, think of a lava lamp. Think of a lava lamp.
Well,
and you're there. Well, Arwen, when I say looking back at what we were, what I mean by that is, you imagine the description of the heliocentric model coming together through gravitational accretion, right? That is a description of how this, where we're standing in the heliocentric model reification, is described as. But when you look out to the stars, you can see things that, based on their timeline, have long since either happened and then probably vanished from all existence. But because we're looking so far back in time, because the light has taken such a very long time to get to us, those things that we're seeing are potentially what our existence as it was correlating would have been. We're just seeing it only arrive now because it's taken such a long time to get here. We're literally seeing back in time to what it would have looked like in our little neck of the woods when these things were developing for us. And that's what it would have looked like the pillars of creation look like, right? Because we're seeing back in time for a very long time to get it.
But my point is that if that is indeed what you're presupposedly looking at, then you could only look at things after the initial expansion in all directions, basically, after the explosion from the singularity point.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you could never see the explosion of the singularity point in itself.
Yeah, you could.
Impossibility.
Stop. Yes, you could. That's what they claim the CMB is. They're saying
illogical.
Yeah, I know it's illogical, but I'm just telling you what they say it is.
Oh my God, I didn't even know that.
Do you not know that's what they claim it is?
Oh God.
At a time.
So embarrassing.
That's the beginning.
My ballroom is cringing.
Yeah,
you don't think you could see us before in the past?
Well, if the Big Bang is like the point when all the matter was supposedly all congregated in the singularity point, that would also include what we were. You could never look at yourself, part of yourself. So it would always be after the initial expansion, then look across, and it takes a very long time. But you could never see yourself in your original state in that distance. That's a physical impossibility.
No, that's correct. But it's still nonsense in the assertion that you're seeing back in time to a point that potentially existed alongside the existence of our creation in their rhetoric. That's what they actually describe. And the edge of the singularity you're describing or asking about would be visible in the CMB. That's the limit to what you can see in their rhetoric. That's the edge, because that was where it all began, and that's how far it's expanded out.
Arwen, did you say in the third
post-explosion, maybe, but the actual point of singularity, the initial explosion, that it would be physically impossible to see that by any logical standard. So
Well,
that
I
they
think
claim
they
that
claim-
is a total embarrassing.
I think they claim
Well,
microseconds before that point, Arwen. I think they accept that, impossibility, but the claim is that it allows them to go back to microseconds before that point, but after that point, sorry.
Well, I mean,
Oh,
if you have something on, called a Hubble that could see apparently 65 to 7,000 light years away from Earth, then you're good, right? That's apparently where this thing is taken from, the Hubble.
Well, I think the better the clarity, and if you can put something that doesn't have the atmo blocking the way and stick it in a imaginary place like space, then apparently, because there's less atmo in the way, you can see further back in time.
I can see QE twitching to end. So I'm just going to draw. It's making me twitch. We're doing so much fundy begging of the question and presuppositional and talking of atmo. It's making me twitch. Right. All of these nonsense distances, vast astronomical distances, are based on an R value we debunked. Now, I'm not going to go through the importance again of stressing how Mick West's maths and an assertion of a physical geometric sphere edge marked with an X in his mathematics, and all the calculations below are deriving the physicality and how it should block stuff. I won't go through that again, although I technically just did. Right? Because ultimately, we're at the exact same stage where we've just got to debunk the claim. Claim is that they're seeing these vast distances. That's based on R. So, no, we're not seeing vast distances when we look into the sky. We really have no idea what we're actually looking at. We know the patterns it produces, and we've got really good telescopes get a bit of a better detail on areas that up until now, or to mere mortals, are just black. Well, so what? We can see the sky well. That's all that means. Doesn't mean we're seeing back in time, and the distances they're claiming we're seeing are based on an R value we've debunked. The whole thing falls on its arse. We're just looking at the sky. Fascinating though it may be, it's definitely not the pillars of creation. We're definitely not seeing back to the edge of the explosion that was the singularity at its furthermost point, coming back at us with redshift. None of that's true. We're just looking at the sky.
I'd like to thank you for pulling me back from the brink of insanity there. I did think the further you could see, the further back in time you could see. It
was you that was
logical. No, I mean, that's the point, isn't it? It's just nonsense. That's what I was trying to make. It's just, how ridiculous is that?
Well, it's their main trick. It's the big outer space filled with balls of light instead of just a bunch of lights, which you always see at an angular position in relation to where you are at a certain consistency. It's the big fantasy. And it's not that hard to imagine it, really.
And the lights are always above you. Most of the arguments for a sphere Earth start with the presupposition that you're going to move antipodal to observe these bloody stars. And that's all they do. If I move to the southern hemisphere, it's a really crappy trick. Well, all of the lights in the sky are always above you. To assume that the lights above you now, if you move south, are suddenly going to be below where you started, is absolutely preposterous, and nothing suggests that at all. Lights above you are always above you. What they do as you move south is irrelevant unless you have it asserted by a ball-believing fundy that you presuppose that when you take that journey, you end up antipodal from where you began. That's it. They just assume that you're moving antipodal when you move towards the horizon. But the sky's always above you. Lights in the sky are forever fascinating. The patterns they make and the bits that you can see with really good optical equipment really doesn't prove anything. In fact, I know less about the sky now than I've ever known.
Yeah, but aren't you happier for that, Nathan?
Yeah, I sleep like a baby. No stress involved in that.
I weren't being psyche there, genuinely. That the ability to admit that, so living with a supposed knowledge with contradictions is a much freer place to be.
There's so many mysteries still to be uncovered. You know, I'm waiting for the opportunity when somebody's gonna create some small hybrid drone Zeppelin and actually send it towards the sun. Maybe I would have to get that together, but to really do that, to send it straight towards it, let's just see what happens. Taking height, straight towards it, and then relay the coordinates.
Prior to this subject, I was on a journey of discovery to figure out more about what the sky was. Well, I was deeply interested in what NASA had to say. I was deeply interested in what the people provided from telescopes. And I was deeply interested in the explanations. The only reason I know what Michelle Fowler's driving at, yeah, I'm getting you the segue, QE, we're getting there. The reason I knew how to dissect her claiming that we're complicated rocks and the origin story was because I looked into it prior to coming to the subject and I had a pretty good handle on it. It just always left a really bitter taste in my mouth. And this is a perfect example with complicated rocks. Well, if you assume that the light in the sky that you see rotating around is actually the origin of your everything, and that one of those twinkling lights back when in the time frame they give you with an assumed R gave you an explosion that created everything around you to somehow coalesce through gravitational accretion that's not a force. Now, if you can go through those motions and understand them, all you get at the end, or all I got at the end, was just, that's not enough, I need more. It didn't quite make sense. Now, for me, it was like, maybe I just need to understand more, find out more, research more, find out what the rhetoric states better, understand the rhetoric better. And now, just to get to Adam's point, relief of all of that is far better. Not knowing is actually where my journey ended. Well, you get to the point where you go, well, all of that was nonsense. All that was made up, and you can disprove all of it. In this case, the distances are, well, you haven't got an R to assume for Earth. We've debunked the geometric horizon, so you can't transpose it onto Venus and apply Kepler's third law to give you scalars and distances. You can't do that anymore. We've debunked it. So this whole notion of having a distant pillar of creation to study and presuppose that eventually there'll be coalescence through gravitational accretion, and eventually those stars, if they're big enough, will implode and then explode and throw out all the debris that they've created as the fusion took place, as they were creating that fusion reaction inside a vacuum of space. None of that is true. What do you end up with at the end of the journey? Well, you end up finding, they were all just stories based on philosophy. None of it was true. What a relief. It's great. I sleep much better now.
I think, Nathan, a more correct statement would be that you now realise that you never knew anything to begin with.
Yes, that's a much more accurate statement. I deluded myself into believing I had a good understanding. That's a lot of what our opponents don't want to relinquish. They've trained themselves up in this nonsense, and some of them pride themselves on it. Well, I've got a really good idea. I can really detail how the heliocentric model works. If back in the day I was to dazzle somebody with my understanding of how, you get to these elements by dying stars, throwing them out, throwing the debris out into the, that would sound great, right? And if I'd studied that or maybe got a degree in it, I'd really value that information. And then some guy like me comes along and says, nah, and gives all the explanation of why nah. And you're going to feel deeply offended by it, right? Because you might have invested a significant period of your life, feeling intelligent for knowing that nonsense. So as Brian rightly points out, what I realized at the end of the journey was I didn't know anything to begin with. At least I know that I didn't know anything to begin with now, rather than kidding myself I did.
You said, though, Nathan, I think this is the problem with a lot of ballers. There's two words. There's pride, and there's also fear. I think that's a lot of Phil, Rumpus, but the pride of their status and the fear of losing it It's too big to take that statement and make those admissions. And that's why they're all still stuck there doing the hurdles and going back and doing hurdle 1, 2, 3. And I think the key word for me is pride, because you lose a lot of admitting everything that you've stood by, that your status that you've had previously, to then have to admit you lose it. You can see why people linger and talk absolute bullshit, because it's better that than the fear of this supposed losing of the pride. I mean, they don't realise that the respect and pride they get for being honest. I think that's the point of lingering.
Is that it?
I think so. That's me done with the metaphysical and the spiritual point of this evening.
Guess not.
Can't we spend a few hours divining the thoughts of our opponents? Maybe a few ad homs, maybe a few personal attacks, maybe some gaffes that are totally off topic.
Well,
There you go. Marwin's there. Go ahead.
Okay. Right, but I think that even some ballers that do get into it at first and think, oh, this is cool, this is awesome, even they can basically figure out eventually that they are actually on the wrong side factually, and then they will still hang on to what they do because they are too afraid to face what might happen if they would snap out of it and basically discard their audience, have their entire audience against them. And I've seen those audiences in chats, and they are just monstrous. So yeah, I'd be afraid to basically get honest about flat Earth if I figure that out myself, if I were them.
I'm with you. I wasn't then kind of, and maybe ad hominem, or maybe a little, and I shouldn't have. I mean, clearly the rumpus is paid. It's quite understandable why he does what he does. But it was more my just putting yourself in those positions, and you look at these quotes and these comments and you think, how, why, what are you, where are you putting yourself to want to have to, kind of the reality, to have to say those things? What is it that's making you say those things? No one in particular. Fine. Get my point. It's an odd one.
All right, to get it all out.
Don't know, John. Have I done? Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I just want to bring up a point that it was about, I was going to say a few minutes ago. Now it's about 10 minutes ago. Did Arwen say something about Baldwin cringes in the third person?
Yes?
Yes, he did, yes.
Yeah, Baldwin hates it when ballers leave a giant gap, or the designers leave a giant
Oh,
gap in the
shit.
logic of their model. No?
That's what we're doing now.
don't
You
like
named him.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
It's like Gollum, isn't it? It's always Gollum.
Lil,
My precious ball.
but I'm not gonna jump in the volcano for you guys.
Six.
All right. We ready to wrap
I love
up?
you, Arwen.
We ready to wrap up the top 50?
I think so. We might have to do a second show on it.
Yeah, that's all right. It's all right. It's cool. I'm not in a hurry. So here we go. Let's wrap it up. Bob, the pseudoscience fallacy guy. Because planes fly a path along the ground, they assume the rotational speed of the Earth at a point on that path as if they were sitting on the ground. Soundly, hypothesis, the Earth is a sphere. Null hypothesis, the Earth is flat. Conspiracy cats, gas pressure and pressurized gas are two very different things. The rumpus, gases effectively have little springs on them, pulling them towards the Earth. The rumpus again. Do you think liquid gas has got the same mass as another form of something? Bob, the pseudoscience fallacy guy. Weight is not gravity. Weight is the acceleration of gravity. Negator. That's like saying 10 to the negative 3 millimeters, 10 to the negative 23 millimeters is massively different than 1 millimeter. It's a minuscule difference. M. Scott Veach, amino acids are the building blocks of RNA. Sean Little G, is a rocket matter? His response, I'm not sure. If maybe someone on the panel can answer. And finally, to wrap up the top 50, Brenda, dog bones are clocks. Have at it.
Number 1, 41, John, from Bob the Science Guy. That kind of is, because planes fly a path along the ground, they assume the rotational speed of the Earth at a point, that path as if they were sitting on the ground. He needs to add, they have to, or my worldview falls apart. Yeah, is the reality there. This is what a lot of the statements are. They're nonsensical in terms of what they discussed with relative to natural law, physics they've stated, you know what I mean? But then they have to make statements like this, which have no basis, just other than in their fundamental religious belief.
That statement right there, that statement right there is batshit insane on many levels, if you actually think about it.
That's what I'm saying. You can look at it, but the reason, why is it there? It's there because he's got to a point in a discussion, whatever's happened, that to keep maintenance in the spinning ball Earth with planes aiming lockstep whilst having experience in, Coriolis, experiencing an outsteppedness, yeah. To maintain that position, the only point you can then get to is to make a statement like that, which is a statement of fact. It's not based in anything. It's just a statement of fact in his religion. This is what happens. So stop now. Stop pestering me. Because planes fly in a path along the ground, they assume the rotational speed of the Earth. Yeah? It's just a fact, but only within their religion. And that the ones they do now, and you're expected to then address it. It's a good distraction point, but I think it's a good example of where they get to, making these statements with multiple issues with them, with the sentence.
Multiple. You think rotational speed has the plane taken over? The angular velocity is the plane rotating.
But just accept it all, and then he's right. That's the point of it, isn't it?
There's another subliminal message in there. Like I said, go ahead and read that a few times, folks, and see how you need to be institutionalized, Bob the pseudoscience fallacy again. We already knew that a long time ago, but I want you guys to actually take it slow and see how many knuckle draggers you can pull out of this one. They're twisted, let me tell you. It's multi-layered. It's potpourri.
They assume the rotational speed of the Earth at a point that this is insane. What?
Yeah.
As if they were sitting on the ground.
This is multi-layered Dunning-Kruger on a clinical level.
I've got one. Yeah. So the rotational speed on the ground would, of course, be slower because it's speed than the point it would be in the air, because there'll be a differential between the two in terms of speed. The angular rate would be the same, but the speed would be incorrect. It would be differential, wouldn't it? Because there's a different circumference they're traveling.
Right.
But at a point on that path, as if they were sitting on the ground. Like,
that's what I mean. If they were on the ground, and they'd be going a slower speed to maintain the same angular speed as if at whatever altitude they were. So the rotational speed would be, by definition, even his own bullshit example, be different, even though he's saying it would be the same.
I like.
So they're trying to sneak in as if there is Coriolis deviation.
Well, it even says it assumes the rotational speed of the Earth. Like, first of all, what speed of the Earth? The Earth is going somewhere? What are you talking about?
There's no assumption of Coriolis, Owen. It's just, he says, look, the plane flies along a path at the same rotational speed. So whatever that rotational speed is, X, right? Now that plane is flying at X, and he says, but it flies, that rotational speed is defined as if it was the same path as if it was sitting on the Earth, i.e. it's in lockstep. But he's defined it as rotational speed, not angular. The angles would be the same, wouldn't it? The angular rotation per second would be the same, but rotational speed would be different because they're traveling a different R value.
Yes, I get that. But it's giving me a headache.
Yeah, did you see another thing in here? Because planes fly a path along the ground. Let's say that I was a pilot and I decided to, go against everything we know and not fly along a path along the ground. Let's say I didn't pay any attention to it. Let's say I just want to just fly, right? Just go on an azimuth, not even look on the ground. What happens then? Clown.
Like number 49, because almost hear the argument that's taken place prior to the statement being made. Are you going to have a discussion about whether or not Earth's an open or closed system? And someone will be arguing, well, we'll have to consider it as closed, because otherwise we'd all be dead. And then someone's got someone to define what open and closed actually mean, right? Closed to matter.
That's correct.
Then someone said, well, is a rocket matter? Because obviously rockets are claimed to be going out into the vacuum of the sky and visiting the lights at the distances that we've debunked with R. Well, in that assumption, when asked, is a rocket matter? Because presumably that person's just said, well, it's closed, like a closed system. Matter can't escape. Is a rocket matter? I don't know. Somebody save me.
You got it. You're all over it, Nathan. That's exactly the context of the discussion, yes.
That's exactly what happened. Say GG.
That wraps up the top 50. I have, ever since I finished those, that was a couple weeks ago, I have 50, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. After your show this evening, I'm going to have at least 60. So that's all we got.
You can't end without 44, John. I thought that was...
You want to go back to 44?
Oh, come on.
Yeah, go ahead.
Gases effectively have little springs on them pulling them towards the Earth. That's just hallucinogenic, isn't it?
Fantastical.
Or is that actually his worldview? That actually he believes that gases have little springs, like fucking at 9.8 down.
It's because bouncy balls act like little springs, right? Because they bounce.
And don't forget
So
about
he
the
was-
valve.
Not
I
gonna
mean,
be
he
any-
was literally telling us the other day. He said it, and I think the show that's coming up. That
was about to say
bouncy
that
ball
not
gas
everybody-
definitely acts like bouncy balls. Sorry.
that contextually takes place in about 20 minutes on Nathan Oakley show. So unless you're a member, you haven't actually heard Rumpus say that yet. But he'll be saying it in about 20 minutes on my second channel. So I'll spam the link to it. But that, as I say, was a members only because it went out. That went out on Thursday as a live show, right? And then that happened in the after show on that particular live show.
Which one? Not the Little Springs? No, not the Little Springs. That was a while ago.
Oh, he said it again on that. Oh, it must be something he's repeated. Then I didn't know he'd said it more than once.
No, did he say it the other? Did he say it the other day too?
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Oh God.
The Little Springs? He
But
said
that
it again?
answers the question. He really believes that.
The nutters.
They call us dumb.
Right. Any more on the Ballbuster side, and then we'll go through some of the public people who have joined courteously and waited patiently to get their 2 pennyworth in.
Yes, gas molecules are spiral shaped.
Oh, Little Springs. Yeah, I wondered what you were talking about for a second, then.
Oh, we have a wild one in 1 second. Yeah. Oh. He's not in the VC. He said 1 second. Flat earthers are wrong. I'm in the voice chat. Can't you see my name? I can refute flat earthers. So, but I don't see his name in there, so carry on, Nathan.
Do you want me to take the helmet down the list?
Yes, sir.
Slow. Not an instruction to anybody. It's one of the guests. Do you have anything you wanted to add? Slow. Going once. Going twice.
Wait, me?
Arwin.
Me?
Talk-
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, did you have anything you wanted to add? You were just about to get muted, but Arwin saved you.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm just listening, guys. Sorry.
No worries. Thanks for being here. We've gone to Flat Earth Egypt. How you doing, my friend? Good to have you.
Hello, hello. Good to be here, as always.
Any remarks on any of the top 50 gaffs?
No, I was just laughing my ass off.
Fair enough. On the list, we've got George. How you doing, George? Just pull you off mute.
Hey, good evening, all.
Good.
Everything's been said. Epic show as always. My favorite vote goes to number 17, though. Keep it a good job, Kiwi. Well done.
So your favourite was number 17. What was number 17? Remind us.
It's the brand, the amount of time on the table.
Oh, how much time is in a table? Nothing can top. What's your hypothesis, shoe? No, what's your phenomena, shoe? What's your hypothesis? It's a shoe.
I agree.
George? You're down the list. Further, we've got is it GINEBR1? Hello,
Yeah.
how you doing?
Thanks. Thanks for the invite there. It was really good, really interesting listening to you guys. I agree with George. Brenda saying he can measure time in a table was hilarious. And the question, can light travel 5.4 billion light years and we can see it? Okay. Just put those in the your chat box there. They're going mad. They reckon light can travel that far.
No,
we can see it.
Light years isn't a measure of time or distance.
Exactly. According to what I've learned, one light year is 6 trillion miles, apparently.
I think you'll find they're Orwellian units.
I think you're an astronomical unit.
Yeah.
That's only
And they
with
reckon-
the parents and
You're nice, Owen.
You're right. You might want to get into the inverse square law and light and how far it potentially could travel, but the distances they're presupposing in the first instance are debunked. These are. We debunked it.
Thanks
We don't
very
have
much
any
for that. Thank you very much for that, Nathan and guys. So you idiots in the chat room, did you hear that? Listen and weep, you mugs. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you muppets. Thanks, Jim. Really appreciate it. Right, who have we got next? It is Lynn Tomo. How you doing? Inatomo. I'm not saying your name right, otherwise I'd have got your attention. Going once, going twice. Clearly not interested. That's fine. Happy Styles, hello.
Hello.
So have you? Have a favorite quote?
Yeah, I came in kind of late, but I always enjoy listening to you guys.
Did you listen to the gaffs? Did you like any of them, or any memorable specific gaffs or quotes from the ball side?
I was paying attention, but I wasn't paying attention. I apologize because I had you guys playing in the background. So
That's okay. Always revert to air is not the atmosphere.
got it.
It's good to have you anyway. We'll move down. Hopefully we'll get some more comments from some of the other guests. So we've got Ratio Swan. How you doing?
I'm fine, thanks.
Have you any comments, remarks?
So I tuned in very late. So
It's good to have you, Annie. What else we got? Redman. I'm sure you'll have something to say.
Of course, I have something to say. Hey, keep up the good job. Number one. Fuel is not element due to Brenda. We had a discussion about a couple months ago, and she said that shoe is an element. It was too funny for me.
Did she sit on the periodic table?
Yes.
Element.
Yes.
I think it's number 79, Bullshitium.
Sounds like that.
Does strike me as someone that would know a great deal about period tables. There we go.
Fun, kick. Y'all kick ass. Keep on going.
Good to hear you, Redman.
Always, bro.
Oh.
Right, let's see what else we got. Selfie? Am I saying that right? Lify?
Yeah, cool. No, I'm a bit of a late comer, but I always enjoy listening. So yeah, keep up the great work. Brilliant, guys. Thank you.
It's a pleasure to have you. We'll have more people kicking off about some of the quotes we picked. I was expecting at least one person to go, "My God, cherry picking!" Zagoli, how you doing?
Doing great. Great show. Great week of Fire Up Debate too, by the way. Lots of great quotes. Brenna's got to be my favorite. It's a shoe. That gets me every time. I heard it live on the show when you guys did it, but Brenda's those are my favorites. Classic. Shoes are phenomena.
What's the hypothesis? It's a shoe.
It's a shoe.
You gotta love it.
Love it. Oh, that's great. Thanks, you guys.
Right. Well, that's everyone. Did anyone else join while we were going down the list that I didn't notice? Look. Doesn't look like that's the case. But we're going to be live for a bit longer, so if someone else does join and want to just stick for picking out any of those comments or defend them, it might be someone's out there thinking, I should defend this complete nonsense. Maybe. Don't know.
You have Voight on the end. Don't know who that is.
Aha. Wait. How you doing? Earth to Voight. Voight.
Is that John Voight?
Nanu. Are we going to get anything out of Voight, I'm afraid? Okay, well, I'll be the first to say it. Great list. Pick. And I'm glad it's all on topic as well. Like, we're just having a personal dig for some misspeak. These are on topic. These are in debate. They're all great. Well done for putting it together, Kiwi.
Been a nice reminiscing tonight with some of it, Nathan. You know what I mean? remembering some of the quotes and that. There's one QE I'd say again, number 43, and only because Khan talked about where I think their head's at. 43 is where they try to take you at in debate. Why it's nice that it says it's laughable, and I'll say conspiracy cats, gas pressure and pressurized gas, two very different things. And I think that, along with pressure differentials, is where they try to take you to nonsense. So I like that one.
Not that they do very different things. Gas pressure and pressurized gas are two very different things.
Totally, as far as I can't see.
I mean, by saying that, you can assert that you could have some sort of pressurized gas without a container, because that's the context of why he's saying that, right? Does anybody did that? Can you have pressurized gas without a container?
Can you have gas pressure without a container? Gas pressure is gas under pressure. Pressurized gas is gas that's pressurized. For goodness sakes. Nathan.
You get your gas pressure by pressurizing gas.
A car with wheels is very different to a wheeled car.
Nathan, we got an old timer that just popped in here.
Oh. Lisa, how you doing? Long time.
The Mick West song.
I was about to say,
Evening, Lisa. What's happening, man?
What up, Bisa?
Nice. What's up, Chocolate? How you doing, brother? Yeah, I caught you guys. I saw you guys were on. I was like, oh, shoot, check you guys. Check 1, 2, you there?
We hear you, we hear you. We were talking earlier about Mick.
Cool.
We mentioned the song that got made, but I don't think anybody actually specifically mentioned that it was you that made it about Mick West.
Oh, nice. Oh, cool. How nice. How synchronistic. Cool, man. I didn't know any of that. That's awesome.
Oh, Mick West.
Oh, yeah, I love that song. Yeah, man. Yeah, and then I love the best part. It's like Anthony Riley. Oh, it's so funny. Oh man, it's so silly. Oh hell yeah, dude. Good, man. What are y'all up to?
We're saying that Mick West can't return because of the geometric horizon being debunked by the Black Swan. The other thing is something that you, as you're here, the 600 nautical miles has resurfaced, and it was an argument that you were putting across 2.5 years ago.
Yeah,
it's
man.
resurfaced. Now starting to gain a bit of steam. I just thought you'd like to hear that.
Oh, I am very pleased to hear that. I did not know, and that is, it's they can't buck that. You know what I mean? Like they just and like to me, it's something that sunk. The penny dropped as soon as I got a hold of that, and like I'm just happy to see it. Yeah, I'm happy because you can't. It just doesn't make any sense. And then never mind, miles squared and squared miles. That was a laugh. But yeah,
we won't mention that.
What's that?
We won't mention that.
Yeah, I don't. Hey, I don't. I mean, shoot, I'm not in it to look good, man. I'm in it to look the truth here. You know what I mean? Like, I look at it like, dude, the 600 nautical miles, the fact that they, they measure, however many it is, when they're doing land surveying, you know what I mean? They measure a broad swath of it and they treat it just flat. You can't get over that if you're trying to tell me that 2 miles away there's curvature. When all the professionals don't deal with that. And then, I mean, nautical, the whole nautical world, the best book for that is the American Practical Navigator. And what's an interesting, you want to know an interesting rabbit hole is go down. I just have a suspicion. There was a guy, his name was James Madison, that wrote the book that eventually became the American Practical Navigator, which is the book that is on all naval vessels for like the U.S. and stuff like that, military and stuff, because it's such a prolific book. And I would imagine that the guy who wrote the first version wrote it as a flat earther because it was written in like the 1800s, and it was a culmination of all this nautical knowledge. And it was kind of recommissioned, and Nathaniel Bowditch was given the rights. And they said he corrected a lot, which I'm sure he did. But, I often wonder what they meant by liberally using corrected, and if there weren't references.
What's the name of that again? Did you say the Practical Navigator?
Yep, the American Practical Navigator.
Okay.
And it's on all naval vessels, and it has been for a long time, and there's versions of it. And if you notice in that, like the version I had gotten, this is what amazed me, and this is what got me when I was putting all that together with the 600 nautical miles, is that I was talking to this. He was a captain. He writes shipping vessel cruise, he plots their courses professionally. And he did not know the old way of how to find your latitude using, let's say, a compass, what would you call it? Like a
sextant.
I'm thinking of sextant.
What is it?
Sextant.
Well, yeah, you could use a sextant, or just how to find the angle of like a protractor. Like you can use like a protractor to find your, to find, if I'm not like a protractor, right? Is that right?
Yeah, but it's more practical to use a sextant.
But yeah, the sextant, of course. But same deal is that you're finding your degree, but based on the.
It is. You could use
Polaris.
a protractor. It would be pretty funny watching somebody do it, but yeah.
Right. But like, or a protractor. I don't know why I'm thinking that, but forgive me. Like, but he didn't know how to use and how to use Polaris and find the angle and know that angle was your latitude. And I found it interesting that somebody who plots courses was so far removed from the old practical knowledge of sailors. You know what I mean? Like, it baffled me.
Well,
because here he is. He's the guy
waiting on that information from Rumpus.
Well, I mean, here's the thing for me. You have to remember this, and this is what kind of nullified trying to debate with people, is Edwin Hubble's quote of that idea that in order to avoid the horror of a fixed position. So, like, you're basically taking a scientific premise based on what somebody and a bunch of scientists are afraid of. Like, never forget that. Like, they're coming from a strictly emotional appeal to whatever because they can't, they have to avoid the horror of a fixed position. So
you're only prepared to consider things from a pseudoscience perspective moving forward based upon a theological position.
Well, I mean, they're the ones superimposing, but don't even just to superimpose your theological, whatever the facts are is what we're after. So like, if you're going to avoid the facts because of your, it's really a theological position if they're trying to be anti-theological, right? You know what I mean? Because they're putting it immediately in the premise of theology. So in order to negate this, they're negating the results because of their theological position.
Yeah, I love that. Right. I'll read a little bit of it. Therefore, we disregard this possibility and consider the alternative, namely a distribution which thins out with distance. The unwelcome supposition of a favored location must be avoided at all costs.
Yeah, and then another thing to point out is too is like, and I love especially with the the Star Wars gang, the Nietzsche fanatics, you know what I mean? That are like God is dead, bro. Like those guys. Like the whole thing is that Nietzsche wrote that in response to the proposition that the sun was not the center. You know what I mean? That there was this acentric position. Like he wrote that to refute the modern cosmology of his day. Which is interesting. You know what I mean? Because he literally said, like, they've killed God in the minds of these people that accept this shit.
Yeah. I'd like to get back to your point that you made about the sextant and getting the angles to Polaris. How can you do that with a refracted horizon?
Well, I mean, that's the thing. If you had Polaris lower than 15 degrees, that's where you put in what's his name, Snell's law, and they do that for astronomy, like different stars for whatever. They'll put in Snell's law if anything is in between the horizon and 15 degrees.
That's not what I'm talking
on a
about.
factual basis.
That's not what I'm
You
talking
missed his
about.
question. Yeah, you missed what he was actually asking. He said, "How can you do it with a refracted horizon?" The answer is you can't.
Yeah, and that's it. They disregard anything under 15 degrees too. You know what I mean? They have to admit the truth. They can't be sending people off on anything close to that 15 degrees. You're dealing with that element of, I said always. It's only in flat Earth that two people would be arguing over a sunset. It's like this, over a phenomena. Some optical phenomena. So they're like,
yeah, but that's the greatest part is that now they're telling us how optical it is, not how geometric it is.
Well, again, though, I don't
That's
think
the
you
best
can.
part.
I mean, I guess, big up to like dissecting these things, but it's like, these folks are just, they're going to rip apart everything they're going to try. It's like, I watch it in the American political scheme, I feel like, and I feel like it's the same parties involved in this space shit. There's a vested interest in we're going to have to, especially if this is what my thing was, if all the people don't realize that they're the principal and the interest holders on the national debt, they're going to have to go to space because they have to keep up the charade to continue printing the more money. You know what I mean? There's a direct correlation here. But that's for another story. But the idea that that national debt.
A whole nother show on this, Lisa.
Right. You have to there has to be an asteroid that's made of nickel that's worth $4 quadrillion bazillion dollars because that's gonna fund the next space mission. Because whatever, they've got to be able to print that money out. You know what I mean?
Don't worry, the Democrats will find it.
I'm not mad at them though. My thing is that I've changed to look at it it has to be this way. Somehow it's ordained that way. I don't know. But God bless those of us. I mean, I think you have to have the ball. Dude, you're never going to get rid of the ballers because it's just you have to have something that is going to awaken the muscle of discernment. I mean, think of if you would deprive somebody that revelation, that revelatory moment of wait a minute, I don't think I'm spinning. You know what I mean? You can't deprive anyone of that moment. It's part of life. That's why I think the globe is kind of part of it because you got to have it for yourself, that moment. And it's only through the muscle of discernment. It's like Santa Claus. It's like with a wink and a nod. You know what I mean? You kind of tell your kid, I would imagine you tell your kids that there's no Santa Claus, but you do it in a fun way and you make them realize. It's like teaching. It's like how you would teach children to be aware of that not everybody's that great in the world. You know what I mean? It's the same kind of way where you would teach them that exists in life. I for some reason I just see it that way. And how unfortunate for people that never quite even how fortunate are we that we live in this time? These ideas are about
a positive spin on it. You're saying it's good to have the ball fundamentalist religious zealot belief because then you can relinquish yourself of it, and that's great.
No. What he's saying, hold on. What you're saying is makes sense.
There's that.
No, hold on, Isa. What you're saying makes sense because I do it all the time. The heliocentric spinning ball space monkey religion is the numpty canvas where I can create my Rembrandt on.
Yeah, I agree with you. Thank God for the devil.
That's what bowling is all about.
Yeah. Right, Adam gets me.
Well, it's you can see, I think we've without what is it and pardon the whatever, but without weight or without the effects of whatever gravity, you would never have the strength to be able to walk. You know what I mean? It takes that resistance to develop the strength in the muscle.
What?
Listen, like the idea of a baby learning how to crawl, it's it has to use those muscles in order to develop into the full human, the man or woman that they are. And my thing is that we need to have it's if you want to build muscle, it's you're going to use weights because it's resistance to that muscle and you're going to develop that muscle. Same way with our discernment. I didn't play I didn't make the game. You know what I mean? I'm just saying it. It appears to me.
That's not correct.
No.
Your muscles, your tendons are based on the bone density. The bone density determines how strong our tendons.
Oh, he's talking more philosophical, Brian. Let him go.
It was a
metaphor.
Yeah, you know, like the idea that you're gonna have to like, you know, develop something and take time and learn it. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of things, it's what makes us actually the superior, whatever, if you know, on creation. It's the idea that we use our brain to figure things out. You know, and I think that's just a part of it too. I think it's another muscle that we learn, you know, or, you know, that we develop.
Indeed. And visualization is also part of that mind training. And it's a separate type of action. You know, a lot of people learn it in school. You learn it. Well, you don't even really have to actively learn it, although you can train it. But usually when people watch like things like movies or even pictures that inspire them, then their mind will automatically start to like visualization copy it and potentially play with it in your dreams and your imagination if you imagine about it afterward. But you can actively train this, and this is something that I have done throughout my life.
All right. What about that flat Earth?
Flat Earth?
On the flat
wandered into the weeds, but try and remember, this is the tail end of the public bit of the show. Although much as I do appreciate hearing the dulcet tones of Issa, we'll actually get to rounding out this Ballbusters now. So thank you, Issa, though. It's nice to hear from you. I haven't heard from you for quite a while.
Thanks, man. And I freaking, you know, I love watching what you guys are doing, and have, you know, I always enjoy listening, man. So keep it up, brother.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, but
we're going to do some plugs and some shout outs. Excuse me, I've got a frog in my throat. Right, we're going to work our way down the list. So, Arwin, where it disappears, isn't it?
No, I'm
good.
I'm here. Yeah, thank you. Was a good show. Was very fun to hear all that back. Because most of it I heard on the front lines when it came out and all that, and laughed. It's amazing how the preponderance, the body of science, supposedly, right? It's crazy what comes out of them. And they're not really even ashamed about it, and often they end up defending that position for a very long time. They don't even try to correct themselves. That's the most bizarre thing about it all, right? But yeah, great show. Flat Earth Early Bird every day, 1 p.m. Amsterdam time during the weekdays and 2 p.m. Amsterdam time during the weekends. Hope to see you there in chat. Arwin, ARWIJN on YouTube. Thank you for having me.
Ryan, have you got any final remarks or plugs that you want to make?
Yeah, I have. I think I have two other comments to add to that list. I just have to go find them, and I'll send them to QE if I can find them. That was obviously a good show, as always. Like and subscribe, Brian's Logic on YouTube. That's it. Thanks a lot.
Cool. Fair enough. Chocolate. Any last thoughts? Anything you want to plug?
Well, shout out to QE for a nice compilation of these clowns. Their nonsense. Always love it.
Shout out Retracted.
Actually do have a new song on my channel called What is the World? And I also have an even newer video to that song, and that's also on my channel. And Chocolate saying, Chocolate SAYAIN or IAN, sorry. Yeah, so check out my song. What is the World? Yeah, enjoy it.
Hey, guys, post your links in
we'll
the
get a few words
actual.
from you as well, Neil. Did you want to add anything?
I want to know when QE's coming out with his new song.
Hey, there's no more new songs. Hey, Chocolate, Arwin, and those guys. Make sure you put Brian. Make sure you put your channel links inside the YouTube chat. Thanks.
Copy that.
And last but by no means least, other than me plugging the show that's running right now, Adam Meakin, want to plug anything, or did you have any last comments on the graphs? Or
Yeah, I mean, I've enjoyed tonight. It was a good reminisce of stuff, as I said. Some of the quotes I think spoke towards the way their minds are working, sadly. I think some of them are quite telling in terms of the way they want your mind to work in debates. Yeah, quite a good bit of fun. Enjoyed it tonight, Q. Thanks for the I know it was probably the best bit of fun putting together at work, but yeah, cheers for the work, mate. Other than that, I'd refer you to my channel, The Adam Meekin, on YouTube. Got paired up with a guy. I've been able to produce a music video for a banging new tune, What Is the World by Chocolate Saying. So, yeah,
yes,
enjoyed that, and hopefully you don't have any medical incidents.
Yeah, see, and that's my bad because I'm so not used to like doing plugs and stuff that I forgot to give credit to the guy that made my video, Adam Meekin, the man, the myth, the
left
legend.
it surreptitiously.
I'm so sorry, man. I don't do this type of shit. So, right? Gotta give me a minute. I don't. This is the first time I'm even having like real content on my channel at all. So,
all right. Well, we wouldn't. Okay, we wouldn't go that far.
What do you mean?
Real content.
Yo, listen.
Hey, let's not get into a discussion about whether or not rap's good. That's not reasonable.
Yeah, take us home, Nathan.
Okie doke. Well, I'll plug me first. So there's a brand new Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show going out on my second channel right now. So I'll spam the link in the live stream chat on the Quantum Eraser channel. Of course, you're watching this on a re-up on my channel, in which case there will still probably be a show that's going out straight after this anyway. But I'll put a link to that if it's running on my channel. Massive thanks to, obviously, the public participants who joined in towards the end, and Easter Mahalski, of course, as well. And to all of the Ballbusters and Quantum Eraser for making this particular show possible as the host. Epic list, as always. I've been Nathan Oakley. Thank you for watching Ballbusters, and we'll see you all in the next video.